Good afternoon, all, and welcome to another edition of the Sal Greco Show. And I'm your host, Sal Greco. Thank you all for tuning in to all our fans and also the haters. And there's quite a few of you that are upset, I guess, on who's the guest on today's show. So we'll address you guys in a little bit. But so if you can, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Hit the notification button as well. If you're watching on Rumble, please hit that like button, hit the Rumble button. And if you're watching us live right now on X streaming all over the world, please hit that like button and share this out to all your friends, especially those, and I'm going to emphasize low information because there's plenty of you, especially those in that low information bubble because they're just trapped in that world. Some best way to describe some of them would be Joe Cop. So see if you could, rattle their head a little bit and maybe get them to view the whole world and not a narrow viewed mind, a narrow view of it. But a lot of interesting stuff before I have my guest on that came up. So I'm going to address a few of these things because they're kind of crazy. Yesterday, there was a New York Post article, and I actually commented on this about the New York City mayor, Mr. Corruption himself, Eric Adams. Now, apparently, he's supposed to drop out of the mayoral race, and it's a fugazi. I'm just going to tell you now. So I put this up on X. I stated months ago, New York City Mayor Eric Adams has appeared on right-wing podcasts and shows to audition for the Trump administration, not to get elected mayor, since re-election for him is almost impossible. The rest is a pipe dream for certain Trump grifters, a.k.a. advisors. And the headline was, Trump advisors have discussed a job for Adams if he quits the mayoral race. And also states that there was conversations about Curtis Sliwa also joining the Trump administration with the goal of giving Andrew Cuomo a better chance of defeating Zohran Mamdani. Okay. This whole thing is it's just a pipe dream here. Right here in this article, he's one of the main guys that is pushing these narratives right there. John Catsimatidis, all right, Mr. Billionaire, owner of WABC Radio and owner of Gristedes. He says in this article, he's very concerned, Mr. Catsimatidis said of the president. How do they say this for all the tea in China? This is serious. So this guy, John Catsimatidis, has a lot to say, but he doesn't put his money where his mouth is, meaning he's not helping Curtis Sliwa. He's definitely helping Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, his friends. And he has a lot to say, but he ran and abandoned the mayoral race when he jumped in there. There's a lot to this guy, and he's one of the pillars of the real estate racket in New York City. And quite frankly, he has Mamdani. I don't know how he's going to ever reach out to this guy. He's bad-mouthing him. I'm sure he'll, if he won, he'll be his best friend, have him on the show. But he's one of these guys that is like a massive drumbeat on this issue. And right here, the one and only Roger Stone, I could tell you, he's with the president, okay? He's got something going on. He's in D.C. with the president and the vice president, just so you all know out there. So Roger Stone wrote this yesterday. Fact check. No one in the Trump administration has offered Mayor Eric Adams a job in return for dropping out of New York City mayor's race. It is possible that, as the New York Times reports, there has been some internal discussion of such a move. I have been unable to confirm this at the highest levels of the president's political operation. It's a total fugazi. It's a Andrew Cuomo planted story. And I can tell you this, okay? Eric Adams said in the Politico article, which is by Nick Rassman, who's a guy you really have to double check what he writes, that he was in Florida, which he was. We report on that live a couple of days ago. He was in Florida meeting with Mayor Suarez, who's from Miami. And I could tell you from my sources there, who are pretty close to the mayor, no one saw Eric Adams in Miami. No one saw him with Mayor Suarez. I don't know if that ever happened. This whole thing stinks, okay? But they were asking Eric Adams today about this. And I have the video of Eric Adams being asked about this. And he had an answer because they asked him, What is all of this hoopla about you're dropping out or whatnot? So let's hear from the horse's mouth itself.
Mayor Adams, do you want to talk more if you have been offered a job at the Trump administration? Have you spoken to anyone from not just the administration or orbit?
I'm going to say this. Yeah. I'm surprised of how the standards of reporting in the New York Times has dropped so much. I've never asked for a job with HUD. I've never been promised a job with HUD. I have not communicated with the president. What I must do is what I've always have said. Stay focused. Don't be distracted by all this sensationalism. Run our city, keep it safe, and run for re-election.
When they approach
I could tell you one thing. His people have been running around saying that he's going to be some sort of ambassador, take an ambassadorship somewhere. Eric, let me tell you this right now. You have to go through a Senate hearing for that. And trust me, there will be some senators that'll be asking you a lot of questions. In particular, why you terminated me for being a Trump supporter, since you're Mr. I love President Trump right now. You could hide behind, your people. And right here on the screen is Mayor Suarez. He has his own things that happen out here. It figures you guys would be friends, actually. But you're going to be asked at that Senate hearing about things that are very uncomfortable. A lot of corrupt things you've done. But in particular, you'll be asked about yours truly. So I don't know how you think you're going to become an ambassador. So just so everyone knows, it is Eric Adams who's lobbying to have a job with Trump, not the other way around. Not the other way around, okay? And right here, Roger also spoke to Curtis Sliwa. He said, right, I contacted Curtis, who the Times reporter may have been in a Times reporter may have been a topic of internal discussion along the same lines, but who reiterated in the strongest possible terms that no one has contacted him with any such offer, and the only job he's interested in is mayor of the city of New York. And I can tell you this, I know, again, firsthand from the closest of people, not named Roger Stone, in and around the president, absolutely not. There's no job offer on the table for Curtis Sliwa. There probably will never be one. I don't know if you notice, he's not endorsing Curtis Sliwa, okay? And although they're like oil and water together, I'm not saying they don't get along. They're just two big personalities that, in the same room over time, probably, are going to end up screaming at each other and walking out, which is why you're seeing what's going on. And what's going on is, well, let's hear Andrew Cuomo, because he also had something to say as well yesterday.
By the majority of New Yorkers. There have been 4,782 polls taken in this race, metaphorically. Every poll shows he's at about 40%. No poll has said a majority of New Yorkers support him. That's why he is so concerned about the other candidates by the majority.
Yeah, the polls are so far off what he's saying. He lost in a Democratic primary. One-on-one, he will be crushed yet again. But again, I don't even believe the support they're showing for people. Cuomo is the mayor for the Hamptons, but running in New York City. Okay, Mamdani, the majority of his money, the super majority of his money, comes from outside New York City, and Curtis Sliwa, all his money is from a super majority of it comes from New York City. So expect the election to look like that. And Eric Adams is the real estate king. All the real estate guys from all over the country are feeding his campaign. John Katz being one of them. So that's how the race is shaping up. What's organic and what's a fugazi, you really need to not be low information and look at your eyes, kind of like when they tell you crime is down. Judge with your eyes, I'd say. What are your eyes telling you? Do you really believe that Mamdani's at 40%? All his money? Sam Antar's exposing this guy every day, showing the money that he's getting in donations is not, he's fundraising. It's not from New York City. It's not from regular voters. It's outside big corporations, a lot of stuff going on there. So him saying he's at 40% is a fugazi in my book. And Andrew Cuomo planted that story yesterday because, and in all reality, he's not really in second place either. But I was going to get to this article just broke too. It's about the comptroller and the public advocate ask Mayor Adams why the NYPD watchdog agency was dropped to only 3 employees. That's the inspector general of the New York City Police Department. It only has 3 employees. So you understand. And look, again, I don't agree with Jumaane Williams' policies. I certainly don't agree with Brad Lander. Okay? And I would never vote for those guys. But even a broken clock is right twice a day. They're right to question that because you need to question why so much corruption has gone on in New York City Police Department. There's never anyone being held accountable, right? Just ask John McCarr and Eric Dim, who had a long complaint. Oh, 1 year they dragged their feet with this. We discipline people. We just can't tell you what happened. Clearly, if they did discipline anyone, people would be terminated because they're hanging out with a mob associate and a self-admitted criminal. But that's okay. That's okay. That's just so you know. By the way, there is some other news here, and that's coming from this happened yesterday. NYPD officer's car stolen in Brooklyn. All right. If you think there's nothing going on, people in the NYPD with these issues, okay. And this is from Aaron. Let me see her name. Aaron Flaumer from PIX 11. NYPD officer's service weapon and car were stolen in Brooklyn on Monday. Sources told PIX 11. Sources said the car, the officer's personal vehicle, was taken while it was parked on 34th Street and Quinton Road around 3:20 a.m. A department-issued gun was left inside, according to sources. Sources said the car was recovered and taken to the 101st Precinct in Queens. The gun was not found in the car, according to sources. So I don't know if that was targeted. I don't know if they know it's a cop's car. I know one thing. Don't leave your damn gun in the car. That's an easy one. That's like an automatic. Now this guy's going to lose vacation days, and who knows why. And I know that area, and that might have been an area when I lived in Brooklyn and Staten Island many years ago, and I was on the NYPD, that you might have been able to do that. Leave your car unlocked. Now you can't. Welcome to the world of Eric Adams and Bill de Blasio before him. That is what's going on with that. Now I'm going to show you this post from an NYPD inspector, right? This NYPD inspector, Soberall, right? Look what he put, and I fixed this for him. He wrote, as we commemorate the end of summer, I want to highlight the success of the 2025 West Indian Day Parade. The team did a fantastic job ensuring the safety and security of over 1 million participants. It's truly a testament to their dedication and hard work. And I edited that to write, what is he talking about? 6 people were shot, 1 was slashed. And I think it's more. I think there's more than 6 people shot. And if you keep scrolling on this, right, you're going to see, there he is. And I put on here, looks like NYPD Inspector Isaac Soberall is infected with self-impression syndrome like the rest of the NYPD upper echelon. I edited his post to reflect how tone-deaf these people are and how they love trying to control narratives for perception management. This is a move straight out of the Kaz Dodry's playbook. That's what that is. Tone-deaf. You're patting yourself on the back. There's 6 people that they're reporting. I think there's more that's not being reported. I think there was actually grumblings of a 7th, an 8th person. One was, of course, everyone's in a hospital. The parade is always an issue. Plus, I covered an incident where a bunch of cops watched an assault happen in front of them, and nobody even arrested someone. At the very least, summoned someone. It's just, everybody go away. I know you assaulted everyone right in front of me, disrespected us, disrespected the community, but we can't do anything about that. Even though one officer can take as many as 5 people in custody, whether it's for summonses or an arrest. That's the SRG model. And we saw who was there. SRG, CRT, the Q teams, ESU. They're all there. So why can't they handle that? But that's tone deaf for you right there. He's patting himself on the back. John Shell was talking about beef patties. Kaz Dodger was talking about the Parkway. That's what you got. That's what's running the police department. But they're worried about who I'm having on today. That's their problem. Some of these people. So then yesterday, if people don't know, Eric Sanders was in the trial room. He was in the trial room for the case of Frank Pagliucci. You know, remember the hair test that is definitely illegal? It's illegal by any standard. So they were forced to defend this in the NYPD trial room, okay? So Eric put on quite the display, and Marlon Bethel was there as well. So I'm going to give you what Eric said. He said a lot about this, but this is one of the things he said. Since when does advocacy qualify as science? In Officer Pagliucci's trial, the assistant trial commissioner designated Psychomedics' own laboratory director a paid employee whose job is to defend the company's product as an expert. That ruling defies Fry and People versus Wesley. An expert must show that the underlying methodology is generally accepted in the relevant scientific community. Yet under oath, Psychomedics director admitted he is not an expert on FDA 510K clearance. SAM HSA has never promulgated binding standards for hair testing. Psychomedics' own subsequent test came back negative, contradicting the supposed positive. His own published research confirms contamination cannot be fully removed and that THC-COOH detection is unstable. That is not expertise. That is corporate advocacy dressed up as authority. The tribunal's decision to accept it is a fundamental error, shifting the burden from the department to the officer, exactly what Fry and UGSP forbid. The law demands validation, not marketing, and the day of reckoning for Psychomedics' unvalidated methods is coming. Okay? And there was also another post he had about this, and I'm going to get into this case upcoming with Marlon Bethel, who was in the trial room, by the way. The NYPD trial system is a complete waste of taxpayer money. For decades, the Department Advocate's Office and the Deputy Commissioner of Trials have operated as an unregulated star chamber, masquerading as a court of law, but in reality, rubber stamping whatever the department brings forward. They confer expert status on corporate employees, admit junk science, and invert due process by shifting the burden onto officers. That is injustice. It's institutional theater. Taxpayers foot the bill for this charade while real courts and oath already exist to adjudicate disputes under the rule of law. In hindsight, I should have joined the administration for one reason alone, to dismantle the system and lobby for all disciplinary matters to be transferred to oath, where transparency, rules of evidence, and due process actually mean something. Until that day comes, the Star Chamber will remain a black mark on both the NYPD and the city of New York. That is 100% accurate. I can tell you I was in that trial room. It is nothing but a disgrace. It is a disgrace. And by the way, it's a total setup, just so you know. People go in there, and this case with Frank and Marlon, I'm going to get the transcript to this. And me and Marlon, he's going to come on air. He was at this trial, and he will be coming on and breaking this down because he said there was so much more and such a, an experience watching this. And there's a lot more to this because it doesn't just affect Frank as a detective. They demoted him, but it's nonsense. He didn't test positive for anything. The test is a fugazi. And also, it affects the candidate assessment division thing we heard recently with unlicensed psychologists. All of this ties into each other. The whole thing is designed to protect the system and a way for them to abuse it and use it on you. All right. So that's coming up very shortly. Kudos to Eric. Kudos to Frank. Shout out to Frank Pagliucci, who's been fighting this tooth and nail. And he's fighting for more than him. He's fighting for a lot of you. Some of you out there that are being like Joe Kopp today, all upset over who I have on as a guest. But to top it all off, there's some breaking news that's quite disturbing over a supervisor that works for Chief Robert O'Hare. So this is another post. And I picked Eric because Eric put it out there on X. He says there's a two-tier discipline at one police plaza. Reports are circulating that a supervisor under Deputy Chief Robert W. O'Hare was caught by Amtrak police at Penn Station in public sexual acts, allegedly captured on body-worn cameras. If this had been a different officer, especially one without the right race, political ties, or rank, they'd likely be in cuffs under Penal Law 245, public lewdness, and Penal Law 195, official misconduct, and suspended on the spot. Instead, a quiet modification, no arrest, no suspension, and certainly no leak to the media. Meanwhile, O'Hare's own record speaks volume. Substantiated CCRB findings, discipline cases with no action, over $1 million in lawsuit settlements tied to his name, a role in the infamous Schoolcraft case. NYPD savior Jessica S. Tisch, why the silence? Why do race, political affiliations, and insider connections dictate outcomes in the NYPD while public trust is cast aside? Selective justice is not justice. New Yorkers deserve better. And I'm going to say this. I don't even know why this guy isn't in handcuffs. And for people that are judging others, like this person that's about to come on as a guest, look at yourselves in the mirror and look around you. Does that sound like someone you want working as an officer or anything, even in the whatever the Chief O'Hare's office? Okay. Remember, this administration has a problem with what? Sexual harassment and assault. Okay. They have plenty of that going on in this administration. I lost count of many lawsuits. They've got Tim Pearson in them. You have John Schell. I know John's watching. John Schell, Kaz Dawdry, Jeffrey Madry. And if they're not personally involved or personally didn't do it themselves, then they're covering it up. Just ask Dana Ratchlin, ask Quatisha Epps. There's so many people. And here is some supervisor working under a chief being an absolute pervert on body camera, and let's keep him on the job. That's what we want. We want perverts on the job. What else is this guy doing? You know? And that's the problem we're having in the New York City Police Department. All right. So I figure with that one, because that is unbelievable, that story, without any further ado, I'm going to bring on, he's coined the most corrupt cop in New York City Police Department history. He's infamous, but you know what he's doing? He's changed his life also. Okay? So without any further ado, welcome Michael Dowd to the Sal Greco Show.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Mike, I could say that a lot. I'm going to tell you, I don't know if you heard, a lot of people have been harping that you're even on. A lot of people just want to take your voice away, kind of like you should be silenced forever, even though you paid your debt to society and and not to get into the past because people could watch the documentary. You've been everywhere and anywhere talking about your past. And I think it's a time for you to now come out and talk about what you're seeing right now happening in NYPD New York City, because you're very opinionated and I think what you say is a welcome discussion here, because who would know better about what's going on than you, who had to live through that? In fact, it was the Mullen Commission and the Knapp Commission, all these things they had. You were part of one of those commissions, and that was the last time we saw anything out of this city and New York City Police Department about corruption, because it's reached like a peak level at this point. So I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that or address these people that always saying things. You should be silenced. You shouldn't even be on the show today. A lot of people saying that. Well,
First of all, I understand the game. I think it's actually I've become inured to it. I no longer have this backbone where I got to fight everybody. I really think for me nowadays, I actually take it as an honor in a way that there's people out there that still live in the past. I mean, I'm 64-year-old man now, right? So when I was 23, 24, 25. I went to prison at 31. I did my 14-year stretch. I got home, you do 12 and a half. I got home at 44 years old, and I started my life over. And I really never paid very close attention to the aftermath of what has gone on through the NYPD, although I was asked to come in and help them. And I did actually do a film for them. But part of the deal was I asked them not to distribute it because I wanted to get a speaking engagement career. And of course, there was at that time, Kelly was in charge, and he wasn't favorably disposed to me, so he was not willing to allow me to come into the police academy and speak directly to the recruits, which is where I would have had the best impact. And you alluded to the Marlin Commission. You know, the Marlin Commission was designed to uncover corruption, but in many ways, all the department did was learn how to bury it better. And you're seeing the results of it now, right? I mean, you're talking, the Marlin Commission was 93. They implemented a bunch of changes in 94 and 95, whatever that was. I didn't know. I was in prison, working out, trying to stay healthy, trying to get my mind back. It takes about 5 years to clear your system out from all the toxins and all the shit you do to yourself, excuse my language, over the years. And it gave me a lot of time to reflect on, how to be a better human being and how to go about things in life and accept responsibility for the things I did. And I tell people that want to silence me, when I raised my hand and pled guilty in 1993 in front of the judge in federal court, that was the time that I should have been, you don't have to like me, but that's the time that our system of justice then begins to do the process of rehabilitation to some extent of us, right? So, I mean, if you're going to be a cop in the city and throw disparaging terms at anybody, you got to look at what you're really doing then, right? Think about it. You're a cop. You lock a guy up, and you're locking a guy up, and you're sitting there with him for a day or two. I don't know. Back in the day when I made arrests, you had 18 hours with a guy, right? By the time you finished with it, you had compassion for the human being, and you said to yourself, well, get your shit together, get your life together, and maybe, you can make something of yourself when this is all behind you, right? I mean, that's what I learned as a young cop, and, yeah, we called them mutts and we did all the other things that we did. But in reality, when you sat with a human being, you tried to treat them like a human being. I bought them beer, things like that, because it was going to be their last one for a minute. So I always tried to do the right thing. And for me, look, you get what you deserve in this world. I don't need a friend. All right. It's not, I am one of those sociable guys. I like having friends, quote unquote. But I don't need a friend. I don't need you to like me. You don't have to listen to me. But if you want to learn something, you listen to guys who've been there. I mean, you tell me, Sal. I mean, how many phone calls have you gotten since you've been jammed up? But from guys that have gotten jammed up.
Oh, well, I can tell you, John McCarty put this out this morning, and he's talking about how the same people that have an issue with you coming on today are the same ones that would remain silent when I'm getting railroaded, right? One person in the comments said, "Now I think you deserve it." Now they're like, I deserve to be terminated for something I didn't even do, didn't commit any crimes. I'm just friends with someone the job didn't like, who didn't find any criminality there either, and can't define with criminal associations. They said I deserve it now because I'm having you on.
Yeah. Now you deserve it.
Yeah, now I deserve it.
It's just, hypocrisy. It runs deep. It's like a guy that goes to church, and on his way out of church, he takes money out of the poor box. I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of people that live that way. If I told you the things I've done since I'm home from prison, now listen, I'm not perfect, all right? I'm still human. I've made many mistakes since I've come home. But the reality is this. I get the phone calls when a guy's got the gun in his mouth, okay? They call me. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I get a life again? I'm ready to take my life. I've had at least, I'm going to say 5, but maybe more, because other people call just to touch. Like, people get in touch with me that are on the fringe and on the edge of really falling off a cliff, and they want to know what it's like to not be a cop because, and Sal, it's not an easy transition. Some people, when they become a cop, that's all they know they are, right? So I get the calls where the guy who's got the gun in his mouth, or or the guy wants to hang himself. I mean, or step in front of a bus, or drink so much that they hit a wall on their way home on purpose. I mean, I've been dealing with these type of people for the last, since I'm home. I'm only home 22 years now, so yeah. So go figure.
It's interesting you bring this up because in this last year alone, there have been 10 member of service suicides in the New York City Police Department. It might be more, but there's 10 that are documented. Only you've never heard that, right?
Well, I'm aware because I actually work with a group in New Jersey, because New York won't have me. So I work with a group of guys in New Jersey, and with called the Blue Magazine, and they deal with suicide, mental health issues all the time. So I'm pretty aware about the increase in numbers in suicides. And I'll give you a little factoid. So when they came to interview me for the Mullen Commission, by the way, which I turned down twice, people don't really know the story. They came to talk to me twice, and I told them no. And the reason I told them no was this: first of all, you don't have to do anything for me, but have me speak like an idiot in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But secondly, if I start to speak, cops are going to start killing themselves. The response from the Mullen Commission was, I don't want to curse, okay?
Yeah.
SHIT about cops. We don't care if they kill themselves. I said, okay, you don't care about them, but what about their wife and kids? That's too bad. We have no compassion for a family whose husband did something corrupt, has now killed himself, and now his wife and kids are left alone. That was my response from the guys from the Mullen Commission. I won't say their names right now because I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was one of the two people that spoke to me on a regular basis. So, I mean, it's so implausible. Well, whatever you want to say, it's incredulous that people that are out there, and like, listen, you guys, it's a hard job today. I wouldn't recommend it on anybody unless you really, really needed to work, but they got to understand that you can silence a guy like me. You can tell him to go shut up, get the hell out, whatever. But the bottom line is, when you go to an AA meeting, you learn from the drunks, right? How you stay sober for the last 20, 30 years. Okay, well, if you want to learn how to be corrupt or not, you got to talk to someone who knows how or knows not to do. Because I got caught. So if you want to know how to get caught, I'll tell you.
That was the whole point, man. I think coming from you to discuss exactly what everyone complains about, which is, my opinion, the most corrupt administration in the history of New York City. And that's the opinion of many, just by what we've seen. And it's all high-level executives. In your case, I believe it was just cops. I don't remember the police commissioner having to resign. I don't remember the chief of department being involved in a scandal with overtime and committing lewd acts with subordinates, forced to, by the way, and extorting them on top of it. This sounds like a mob movie, right?
Yeah, here's one of the things that I found very interesting. Okay, Eric Adams came on the job when I was already on the job. Okay, I guess he started out in transit. I can't really remember all his history.
Yeah, it was transit. Yeah, transit
guy. Okay, he was insignificant. He was a pimple. Okay, he was a pimple back then, and he started an organization called the 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. That was the first thing he started. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's a rabble rouser. He reminded us of Sharpton back in the day. Okay. No one really wanted to pay attention to him, but he just wouldn't go away. He was persistent. And eventually he divided the police department. Now, people don't even know that, but he was one of the initial reasons that the police department became very divisive. Okay. And it went down the path where it ended up really getting, guys started to hate each other. I mean, my best friends were a black guy and a Spanish guy on the job. Okay. Those are my two best friends. They come to my house for barbecues. And then when he started that bull, it started making guys start to look at each other differently. I mean, we're all blue, we thought, right? I mean, so and now you got the guys that he was a cop with are now up in these positions, right? And it's all handouts and payouts. They were running the drug operation in the 7-9, 7-3, and 7-7, okay? And I think the 7-1. They were all involved, that whole crew of guys that he's involved with, Eric Adams, all right? And I'm telling you, bank.
That crew. Somebody actually asked. There was two things here first. Andre Jackson, 1999 to the podcast. Thank you, Andre. I'm going to have plenty of espressos on you. Good content, Sal. That's what he said. I believe he also asked a question to you about if you knew anything about in the 80s what went on in the 77 in the 77 precinct, which is, I think you're alluding to Crown Heights, which is 77 is Crown Heights, so part of it.
Yeah. So I didn't know the guys personally. Of course, I knew the story was this: we're next. Okay, that was the story after the 7-7 went down. But here's what happened: we all knew we were next. So everybody tightened their short strings up and made moves. Guys left the department. Guys changed their act. They didn't do things. I didn't do things. And but it was very there was a lot of pressure put on guys. Like, so you know how the department operates. You're on the radar. That basically you're done, right? So they kept coming. They kept coming for me. And then eventually, I got away. And the reason I got away was they didn't want the publicity. That's the real reason that it went away. They would approach guys that were drug dealers in the street, and the drug dealers would tell them what was going on, and they'd be like, "We got to get rid of this." They didn't want to make any. I mean, it was deep what happened with us because it wasn't controlled at the top. It was all street guys like myself running their own racket, and. Listen, I'm not proud of it, but it was a time. It was like we were our own little mob. I mean, it's just straight up truth, you know. And we were the baddest gang in the land back then. I'm not going to lie about it. We, you know, when I say we, it doesn't mean like everybody in the 7-5, but a third of the 7-5. You know, and those other guys turned their head. So, I mean, to say that no one knew. I mean, my name was on the wall in Rodman Neck. Dowd's wearing a wire, number one, which is bull, you know. But I was considered corrupt back in like 86, like something. You know what I mean? It was an 86. I didn't get arrested until 92. So it was known. It was out there. I was sent to Coney Island on a detail, and my partner's working the detail with me. A guy comes up to us and says, "You guys don't belong here." A Puerto Rican guy from the neighborhood from East New York. And we're like, "What do you mean? We don't know him." He goes, "Yeah, you pulled me over." I said, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, hold on. Burgundy 280, I think it was 260 or 280Z. The Toyota, was it a Toyota 280ZX or something like that? Honda, whatever. I forget what they are." And I said, "Burgundy." I said, "Left-hand side over on such a." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You had me. I had 10 kilos in the car, or 5 or 10 kilos." I said, "Why are you telling me this?" He goes, "Because when you get back to the 7-5, I want to work with you." This is the way it was. That was just how the street was. I mean, it just was crazy. Now, what should I have done? Lock the guy up because he told me he had 5 kilos in his trunk 6 months ago when I pulled him over? I mean, it was so blatant. Like, it was just, I'm laughing now because it was out of control. It was just absurd. And my partner looks at me. He goes, "I'm out of here." I go, "What?" He goes, For a guy in the street to come up to us and say, "We like when you're working because we know we're not getting arrested." That was what he was saying. So when you get back to the 7-5 from the detail, come see me. My partner goes back to the precinct that night, tells me he's leaving the job. He goes home, talks to a lieutenant, the ICO. He goes back and says to the lieutenant, his neighbor was his neighbor's the ICO from the 7-5. He goes, "Hey, Lou, you know, this happened to us as we were walking the street in Coney Island." He goes, "Yeah, if I were you, I'd take a walk," because he knew the ICO knew that we were on the investigation, right? And the next day he came in, put his gun badge on the desk, and headed to Key West. He became a cop in Monroe County.
Wow.
And that's a fact. In fact, I ran into a guy in the Keys about 8 years ago and said, "Your partner worked with my father." That's how go.
Jesus Christ.
I mean,
this is street level stuff basically versus what we have today though goes a lot further than street level stuff.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying to you all that. the whole crew is now elevated. But don't forget, Adams came on like 86, 87, right? So if you do the numbers and the math, I'm too old for that today. But he's right around the cusp. All his guys are right around the age of the cusp where if he met them in 89, 90, 91, he worked with them. They helped him. A lot of them helped him, get into positions too. Like, I don't know if he was running the organization still. I don't know his history anymore. But they all took care of each other back then. And they all knew what everyone was doing. If you look into the files from the Marlin Commission, there's a whole group of guys that they knew about it and they didn't lock up. And they knew about a lot of them.
I see here, Hard X Course says, remember the 7.5 for heroes like Vigiano, not this guy. Sincerely, 7.5 alumni. I don't, Vigiano, I don't know if you know who he is. They're three brothers on the job. They're all outstanding kids. Actually, paisanos of mine. And their father, unfortunately, he perished in 9/11. So, and yes, he is, he should be on the Wall of Fame and in the 7.5 if there is one. I'll tell you here's a guy wanted to, since you were in a 7.5, is a guy right now who comes from the 7.5. He was a CO there at one point, the chief of department, John Schell. The guy, of course, number one, was a tax cheat that we know of. That would have got you terminated, right? He didn't get terminated for that. No. He comes online, makes fake monikers, comes after me, John McCarry, Eric Dim, goes after the press, violates the Hatch Act. Okay, here he is. He's a tax cheat, John Schell. Yeah. Then the incident of him in Brooklyn where he killed someone. He killed someone while he was a sergeant. That whole video is murky because now it's only half of it's missing. I could tell you the grand jury minutes from this because it should have been the criminal case, grand jury. Right. The grand jury minutes are missing. No one knows where they are now. It's like, we don't even know if that even happened. The civil trial comes up. He did terrible on the stand. He's deemed not credible. Cost the city right there $2.5 million. Right. $2.5 million. He somehow rises through the ranks because he took the 6-1 as a CO, the 7.5. I worked with this guy temporarily when he's the captain of the 60th precinct. Loudmouth. He's inebriated. There's a lot to be said about this guy, but he's the current chief of department. He's involved in numerous scandals. CRT is a unit that was created so that they could give him his third star because he does have that kill. He killed someone. The community didn't want him to be a chief. Became the chief of patrol, then a chief of department. Now he's got, lawsuits. He's covering up sexual harassment. He's covering up sexual assaults. He's browbeating the victims. There's a current lawsuit with that. He's going to end up costing the city. He already cost them millions. He's going to cost more.
This guy, Hard X, whatever the hell is up his ass here, tell him to take a break. These guys are minimizing the corruption, comparing it to what I did. You know what? Go take a powder, pal. The guys that run the money are the best corrupt guy. I mean, like, what's the quality of corruption's better? Is this what this guy's about? One of your fans here? Hard X?
Well, I'm saying this guy, Chief Schell there, who's highly, Mike, some guy walked in, he walks in the precinct with this Kaz Dodry, another guy, another clown, 8 ranks. This guy was a cop. He's now a deputy mayor. He would berate and browbeat cops. One in particular, when they walk into a precinct, didn't salute him because you don't have to salute him. He's not one of the big 3 people. He's not a chief. Right. So John Schell transferred this guy. And on top of it, we found out that John Schell was getting paid for his appearances on Dr. Phil, that little show he had with him. He got paid expenses, meaning he got paid for travel expenses. That's a highly conflicted thing. What is your take? This guy seems to be by far one of the most corrupt guys on the job, has done so much stuff, yet he made it to chief of department. So he's been doing this stuff for a long time. What is your take on this guy, let's say, and the circle with them, with the rest of the crew?
Well, he's a lot better corrupt guy than me, okay? He's a nice corrupt guy, apparently, because he didn't run a drug operation. He just runs a whole department and corrupts an entire city. Yeah, I get it. That's That's where these guys land. So here's a guy who starts out as a cop, gets jammed up as a sergeant, and again jams his way up to the top. It sounds like any bureaucracy. Just jam yourself up to the top. You know, everybody just keeps. Obviously, he must have somebody that has skeletons in their closet, because you can't fail that much and not be and still. I mean, they protected guys back in the day that had value to them, you know. Or I mean, if you look at, the quote unquote Epstein's list, you know, that type of thing. If you got buried bodies on somebody else, whether you know the corruption of somebody, right? If you know the corruption of somebody else, and that guy gets a position, he's got to keep you happy and quiet. Otherwise, you could bury him, right? So they just keep promoting guys on their way up. You know, I don't know what to tell you about. You know, I don't follow the NYPD like I used to, but I did get banned. I did get banned from One Police Plaza. I mean, how does that happen?
I think I have to a little bit to do with that. I'll get to that. But Eric Sanders says here, he's in the comments, Michael is correct. Remember the IAB cautionary tale in the police academy. As usual, we focus on the grass eaters, not the mean eaters. And it's kind of what a lot of people are doing right now. This guy calls the shots as the chief of department. Before him, it was Jeffrey Madry. There's so much going on there that, I mean, you heard the story before you came on, Mike. What about this pervert supervisor works for the chief doing sexual acts in Amtrak over there, getting caught on body camera? Is that who you would want as a police officer?
I mean,
as a supervisor.
Apparently it's par for the course. I mean, it's not a big deal. I know guys. A guy would take a piss and get a summons and lose his job back in the day. If someone saw you taking a pee because you had to go bad, you could lose your job. You get suspended, the whole bit. I mean, it happens. I know because I work with guys in a Whitestone Pound. You know, they're all on limited duty. Every guy that gets flunked, does some flunky act, ends up in the Whitestone Pound at some point. So I see them all. I was there with a guy who shot his best friend in the stomach by accident. I mean, I go down the list of guys that I know and the things that they did. And, you know, the bottom line is this. If you're protected, you can do no wrong.
We'll get into that part, right? So I think the reason you were banned from One Police Plaza is my case. And why?
Oh, is that right?
Because of the whole criminal association thing. Now, this is where I have issues with people, because again, they can say what they want in here, and they, people are gonna like you or don't like you, right? But people are not looking, and I'm not saying comparing apples to oranges is apple to apples, right? What we're saying here is what's good for the goose, good for the gander, right? A lot of people have a problem with your past, what you've done in your past.
Me too.
Right? Yeah. But what we see now, right? This whole criminal association thing. I'd say, yeah, you were criminally associating when you were on the job, right? But we have a bunch of guys, and I'm talking about the highest level, the mayor himself.
Yeah.
All these guys hanging out with drug dealers, wannabe rappers that are like drug dealers, all convicted felons. They're hanging out in a place in the Bronx, Mike. And in your time, I think you were still on when eventually Jimmy's Bronx Cafe came around. The owner of that establishment, guy by the name of Jimmy Rodriguez, a self-admitted criminal and a mob associate.
Nice.
He's a little higher than the guys you were dealing around with, the mob, the real one. So they're all hanging around this. Look at this picture. Yeah. They're all hanging around him, guys in uniform. Here's the union leader, Pat Lynch, 20 years. Did not. He couldn't, like, this whole thing that's going on in the police department where people getting terminated for things like unlicensed psychologists giving evaluations. That guy hardly stuck up for. You know why? Because he was hanging out at this restaurant in the Bronx, Con Sofrito, which was it was managed by this guy, this mob associate guy, and the police commissioner's brother, the police commissioner. He's there all the time, hanging around this guy. You got Fat Joe, Peter Guns. These are big-time criminal felons. And everybody, all the police department guys were over there cowtailing this guy. You got reports of human trafficking an NYPD personnel did this report, went to human trafficking in the NYPD, right? And that did whatever happened with that vanished. And then the place was open illegally. There they are together. I guess no one has a problem with these guys because they don't say anything about that. Only you.
Look like cellmates. Look like cellmates of mine. I'm not
I'm just saying all this stuff goes. So when that happened and this whole criminal association has exploded, like people, because they use this against people when they want to, and when they don't want to, like we're seeing, is what you're hearing about. Oh, don't, Jimmy, you can hang out with that guy. John and Eric from Finance Unfiltered, they made a complaint featuring him in the middle because he threatened John Macari online because they were all threatening him, guys with fake monikers, cops that are involved with these guys. So when you went to One Police Plaza, I had said, well, Michael Dowd he's a convicted felon, right? How is he allowed to walk into One Police Plaza, right? And the cops are there with him. But then Jimmy Rodriguez himself was in the police commissioner's office. You were in front of the retirement pillow, I think.
Yes.
This guy was with the police commissioner in the office of self-admitted criminal.
Yeah.
He brags about his crimes and what he's done.
Well,
The police department had no problem with that.
P. Diddy, the whole crew of guys. I mean, they got him, but they gave him the key to the city one day and took it back for the next. I mean, you have Beyonce and her husband. I don't even know his name anymore, for God's sakes. I mean, they were all drug dealers. They're admitted drug dealers. They admit that they made money in the crack era and they became stars from the money that they spent and built albums and created music from their crack money. I mean, they don't even deny it. So I don't know. But here's the funny thing. All these people, when I went to One Police Plaza, I went there with a guy who had PTSD, who was afraid to go through the tunnels or the bridge because he was on the pile, 9/11 pile. You know, the buildings. He worked there for I think he worked there for 10 months, with taking body parts out, and he was shot. And he asked me if I would go with him for the ride. So I just walked in the building like everybody else does. I put my ID up, but they said, "Are you with him?" It doesn't. They would have let me. But by the way, I was in there already a couple times. Okay, so it's not like I'm not allowed in there. I mean, it's a public building. So I went in there and I put my ID on. They said, "Are you with the sergeant here?" I go, "Yeah." They go, "All right." And they didn't question me, and I just went in with him. Went upstairs. They don't know that he's got PTSD and needed a chaperone. He was uncomfortable. So when I got upstairs, I looked at the retirement podium, and it was like, and this is who I am. It touched me. I mean, it touched me because that was what I should have been done with my career: is go and get and be the guy that made the 20 or got a 3/4 like 80% of the guys get, but retire with grace, and humility. So when I took the picture, I was mocking myself because I gave that up by leaving the job in disgrace. So for me, it was a humbling moment. So I put that up on my Instagram, and boy, I know I'm shadow banned on every platform. I'm shadow banned on, but this one I got like 300 or 400 responses. People, you son of a, you don't deserve it.
I know, yeah.
The hate came. It's funny how the hate. You don't get any views, then the hate comes out, and you got 1,000 views. So I ended up. I actually was. This is the truth. I actually was moved by it. That they were right. I shouldn't do that because I didn't look at it from their perspective. Okay, fine. So when I went to take it down, I read one last comment, and it was a woman. I think she worked with me at one point, and she lambasted me so deep and hard. I said, you know what? Now you can really, like the depravity, like I hope you get anal cancer, things like the things that they were saying to me. And like, all right, I hope I don't. I hope I don't. But knock wood, anybody can get it. I mean, so, that's a reference to get. You take it in the behind in prison. That's what that's a reference to. Like, yeah, okay, come get me, man. Yes, come see if you're all that. We'll see.
I know it's tough. People they're a rough crowd. Like I said, there's a lot of
this. They're rough like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of hate because you're on today, and I understand their personal feelings, but I don't think we should silence people, because heck, there's a far worse people out there, and people making value judgments. The only person, well, only God judges people in the end, not other humans. Unfortunately, we share the planet with all of us. So if two people don't like each other, more than likely you go to one end of the planet and the other one goes to the other end, and you won't have this confrontation. But here it's like these people live for drama and confrontation. So I'm like, let it go. And that's the NYPD too. That's the culture, which is something soccer mom, Jessica Tish doesn't know anything about. That's the culture of the NYPD. That's the kind of world we live in the NYPD, where that's how it is in the locker room. That's how it is in the muster room. You're going to see people like that. People avoiding each other because they have, animosity because of what happened yesterday, on a job or something. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to say what you did is on that level, because I understand it was criminal. It's worse. All right. But, we've beaten this dead horse over and over again. How many more times are you going to keep beating it? That's my perspective.
I say, not everybody gets a documentary about their life. I understand that the guys out there that put their life, on the line every day and that do a good job, but do it with integrity. I can see where they might be chagrined about me having a documentary. But another thing is, I paid the price for my sins. I did my time. I did it straight up. I didn't put anybody away. I did my own thing. I took my own responsibilities. I came out. No one handed me anything when I came out. Nothing. I had to make it all back on my own, and it was not easy. It's still not easy. I'm 64. I still have to hustle to make some extra money now and then because I don't have a nice pension, and I know many guys that don't, that have lost their pensions. I have to have Medicare or Medicaid, whatever it happens to be at the time. So, I had a job, a nice job. It took me 10 years to get one. The documentary came out and I lost the job, and some other things happened along the way. But see, so like this, so don't be careful what you wish for, right? So in the end, I try to be a humble guy. I try to give back. You don't have to care. You don't have to like me. I'm sorry for you. I think if you, certainly people from my experience, who have my experience, they have a lot to offer. You might not like it, but sometimes you might need it. And I listen. Like I said, I get the phone calls, and I know you get them too, from the guys that are distraught. They don't know what to do. Which way do I go? How'd you overcome something? We all have value in some respects. I mean, some of us might not think we have value, but I do the best I can.
That's what I'm saying. I see people. Like Pete Miller said, Mike D paid his debt to society and never ratted to avoid taking responsibility. Why all the hate? And I think Mike, a lot of people I see here, are they saying, do you repent on what happened? I guess, or is there on your road to redemption? Are you repenting on the acts that you did? Because that's what they're all asking in here.
Well, I guess the thing is this: you have to look at it from the perspective of a person who damaged his life, me, and people around me. I damaged their life. So there's only one thing you can do in repentance, is to be a better person and try to help people along the way. Because you can do all the talk and make believe, but if you don't walk the walk and do the best that you can, and we're all fallible, let's be honest. I make mistakes. I made many along the way in my redemption process, but I try to give people an opportunity to learn from me. And so my redemption or my repentance is, I don't ask anybody for anything. I try to live the best life I can. I'm willing to help people. I think when I raised my hand in 1993 and pled guilty in front of the judge, I think that's what you would consider pleading guilty, right? It's like you put your head on the pillow. I put my head down and let the judge whack me. The judge could have given me a life sentence at that sentencing. Okay, I walked in there with a plea agreement that had me getting up to 17 years. But I could have gotten a life sentence if the judge felt that. I would think that's repentance. I don't know what people consider repentance, but I threw myself at the mercy of the court. The Marlin Commission wrote a note to the judge saying Dowd helped us to make some changes in the PD. That was all I had going in there.
Yeah, which I don't know if they.
and
Are
my
they,
beautiful looks at the time.
yeah. Are they following that recommendation to this day? I don't know, because they just took out. They made the New York, the NYPD attorney, the inspector general office. There are only 3 employees there. I mean, what do you expect? How do you expect any kind of corruption to be rooted out? Actually, I had a question here from Eric Dimty. He says, "What does Mike think of internal affairs in the present day compared to his days of the corruption?"
So I've obviously had no real interaction, but I did have a meeting, believe it or not, Mr. Hardcore. I don't know what he's saying now. I can't see the whole thing, but he's back.
No, he's actually saying something good. He said that these comments show me corruption is part of our job more so than I thought.
Thank you. Anyway, what you got to realize is that I had meetings with internal affairs afterwards when I came home. All right. Actually, I have to say this, and don't take this the wrong way, guys. It was actually a good meeting because when I spoke to the chief of internal affairs, was she a chief? I think she was a chief. A good-looking woman, blue-eyed, dark hair, nice-looking woman. I forget her. If I said like a Pertel or something like that, I can't remember, something like that. Her, a Spanish lieutenant, gorgeous, looked like J-Lo, and I mean for real, like. She was a smoke shop, and a big burly white guy right from my neighborhood over here somewhere. In fact, I know him. I know his brother. His brother was on the job too. Anyway, and we went out to dinner, and we had a discussion. And I almost was embarrassed because they wanted me to do some things for them, and I said I'm willing to help. Speak, and they developed 2 programs just by speaking to me. Just so people don't know this, but. They developed a program for the supervisors, and they developed a program for patrol from my conversations with them. And of course, they don't give me any credit for it. You always get down this. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't need credit, but when they say you don't give back, you're not repentant. I mean, I do what I can, right? So when I sat with them, what I found was I understand they changed the career path now, right? To be a real boss, you got to go through internal affairs. I mean, at least you did at some point. I don't know anymore the whole process, but I said to them, so at least you guys have a little more respect now that I screwed up the department. You guys get a little more respect because internal affairs has put a career path now. It's not like you're a rat or a snitch. So the chief looks at me. The chief goes, not really. She says it still sucks. She says being internal affairs still sucks. I'm like, all right, well, I tried to give them the out to say, yeah, we're doing good. And she's like, it still sucks. So that was my take from the chief of internal affairs. And a nice lady, very nice lady. I just can't make it up. So they think it sucks too. Okay.
I see. Yeah. Well, there's another question here. Michael M. I give it this one, even though it's a little edgy, I think, for you. Hey, Dowd, how did you reconcile the fact that the drug dealers you work with were no different than those who maimed and killed some of your brothers in blue?
Well, I wouldn't. Okay, so the facts are that I specifically said to anyone that I had dealt with, it was like only a couple guys I really dealt with, 2 or 3 guys. I said, if you hurt a cop, I'm turning myself in. I said, because it's going to be under my tutelage and I can't have that. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, I don't know. I know that, believe it or not, I hate to say this because it's not going to go over well, but not every drug dealer wants to kill anybody, okay? It's just, they want to make money, all right? And when you work in the hood, that's the way it was. They're all out there trying to make a living. And I changed my life in the hood. I went from being this naive, white boy from Long Island, and I just became part of the fabric of the ghetto. I mean, it was exciting. It was alluring, and I was young, impressionable, and you can't justify your behavior when you did it. You did what you did. You grow up, you take responsibility for it. I can't delineate. No, if someone wants me to answer that question, I don't know what to say. I mean, but I tell you what I said. I told the guys that I worked with, if anybody hurts a cop, I'm turning myself in. Would I have done it? I don't know that, but that's what I said to them. So that's the answer to the question. That's all I can do is be honest. You know?
I see. Here's a good one. Gigi Jupiter says, what's the first thing Mike would do at One Police Plaza to curb all this corruption? The current one that we see today.
Give me the job. You know what it is? And you guys, you'll know it. You're a cop from the street. You know corruption when you see it, okay? If you've been around it, you know where it is. Like, I mean, I hate to use this because this guy's not a good friend of mine anymore, but one of the wise guys got a job as a councilman down in Jersey, right?
Mm-hmm.
You probably know what I'm talking about. And Elizabeth, some English town, one of those places in Jersey. And people are like, oh, we got a wise guy in the council. And people are going, well, at least he knows where the corruption is. He knows how to find it. You know, so if you have a guy who knows a corruption fighter, maybe put a top end white collar. Listen, it's all white collar corruption now. You know that, right? It's all contracts. It's all decisions. I mean, listen, it's been going on forever. The PBA. I hate to say this about some of the guys because they were pretty good to me overall, but the PBA back in the day, I mean, the money that they would get, they all had yachts. They all had yachts in Montauk, okay? It's 10 grand back then it was 10 grand to park your boat. And now you had a 45-foot boat and you PBA delegate? I mean, I don't know. Someone's getting paid. So they're going on forever.
Yeah. So Rob Bluecash, who's the co-host of the Executive Perspective, he had a question for you. How did it start? Was it the senior guys or just you and your partners thought it was a good idea at that moment? What you guys were doing.
Well, so there's the two individual things here. The seed was planted by older guys. Not that they were outwardly encouraging that type of thing, but when I was in the 110 precinct, I saw things happen that I probably shouldn't have seen. And I took that and put it in my bank somewhere, like, okay, these guys just robbed a drug dealer, basically, but because they picked the drugs up and didn't turn it in. Now, it wasn't a lot of drugs. It was probably, back then I didn't know anything about drugs, to be honest with you. It probably was a couple, they call it big 8, probably a big 8 of cocaine or something like that. And they just took it, pocketed it, and didn't lock nobody up and left. And so the seed was planted. And when I went to the 7-5, my partner and I found a bunch of these things. We didn't know what they were. It's a crazy story. We didn't know what it was. These little plastic things, So we didn't know what they were. And then we had a guy spit them out of his mouth. One that grabbed him by the throat, so he spit him out and down into the sewer. So we left. We didn't know what it was, bro. And then we got a call about 5 minutes later to return to the scene. The guy took the manhole cover off and he was getting the stuff out of the sewer. So we're like, there must be some value to this stuff. We didn't know what it was. So we find a Marlboro box, Newport box. We find a Newport box filled with the same things with these little vials in it. So my friend brings it home, my partner. He comes back the next day, hands me a couple $100. I go, what's this? He goes, that stuff's crack cocaine. He didn't say crack because we didn't know the word crack. He said, that stuff's cocaine. I go, what? He goes, yeah, that's cocaine. So, I mean, now it was like an ATM machine. Everywhere you went, it was crack. It was crack on every corner. So, I mean, it was like, really? I don't know. Like, I'm a Long Island boy. I don't know about drugs. I smoked a joint twice in my life. What's this shit, right? And then now all of a sudden, everybody on every corner was an ATM machine because it was crack on every corner. So my partner started taking it home and selling it. And he was a Brooklyn guy. He had friends that were doing it. So, all right, well, I guess we're making money. And then that was the beginning of the downfall, really.
So, and Rob Lukesh says, we'd love to know if the lack or involvement of supervisors was a factor in getting involved in the corruption.
So, for me, first of all, there wasn't enough supervision. All right, you're talking about in East New York. There's 1 or 2 sergeants on patrol, maybe. Usually it was just 1, and there's 16 cars turned out or something like that, and really you didn't want a sergeant on your, you didn't want the sergeant anywhere near you. So at one point, so I tell this story. I show up at a homicide scene. I got the whole thing figured out in a second. Who did it, where they went, the whole thing. and a young cop. I figured this, I got it all figured out, and there was money there. It was a tray bag. You know what a tray bag spot? You know what a tray bag spot is? It was a tray bag spot, right? And all they have is like they have paper plates on the window, with numbers and stuff, and they got a jar of candy, like one jar of candy. That's a candy store. It's got a jar of candy. So those are peanuts. So there's a guy dead on the floor, and there's a bag of marijuana like this. I can't take the marijuana. I mean, it wasn't even on my mind to take the marijuana, to be honest with you, but as I think through it later. But there was a stack of hundreds, a little cute little stack of hundreds, right? And a bunch of singles, because it was a tray bag spot. So $3, $3. You had stacks of singles like this. But I had the cute little stack of hundreds like this. So I took the cute little stack of hundreds and put it in my pocket. I'm looking at it. No one can see me do this. I make it 200 a week at the time, 240 a week I'm clearing, Wow, it's fucking big money, So I put it in my pocket. And then the sergeant walks in. And I know the sergeant. He was a good friend of mine, really. But he was an older fella, but he was a good friend. He was good to me. And he goes, "Is that it?" He startled me. I go, "Yeah, well, I did put this. I didn't want it to get blood on the money." So that night, we're out having a couple. And I said to him, "Hey, Sarge, what if I just kept that?" And he goes, "If I don't see it, I don't know about it, it's yours." That was like, he's like, "You just gave me a pass to the city," when he said that, I was like, "What?" He goes, "If I don't see it, it's yours." I go, "Okay, noted." And I didn't do anything immediately after that, but it planted the seed. And then when my partner started, learning how to make money with these new vials of stuff that no one knew what it was, crack. Yeah, so it was like off to the races after that. They didn't see it. I was like, you're young and impressionable. Sergeant says, "If I don't see it, it's yours. But make sure you look out for me if you get something nice." That type of thing.
I see. Yeah. So I guess that pretty much solves what was going on in that time. Craig CB says corruption has only been rooted at the lower ranks. It is 100% rampant and ignored at the highest levels of both the NYPD and the entire city of New York.
Yeah, it's 100%. Yeah. The guys in the street now. Listen, they had the NAP commission. Guys in the street got scared, right? They had the Modeling Commission. Guys in the street got scared. But no one up top ever gets cleaned out. Now, I'm not pointing fingers. In fact, the guy at the time that was in charge of me was inspector, at the time was DI, Deputy Inspector Farrell, who eventually becomes the chief of sanitation and then becomes chief, I think, in Staten Island. I don't know, something like that. But he was a really nice guy. I really felt bad for him because I knew it was going to affect him adversely. But that was the reason that they didn't get me, because they didn't want his career destroyed, because he was really a rising, they call him rising stars. This guy's a star. And I liked the guy. He was good to me, man. He told me. He said to me, "Dowd, you need to put a transfer in to get out of here." I did. They wouldn't let me go. No one would take me. No one would take me.
Here's another one from Vendetta Blue. Said, "Mike, how do you feel about the Emerald Society and other fraternal organizations bowing down to all the corruption? They don't do anything to stand up to other fraternities or the job in general." And I think one of them he's mentioned, I don't know if you know this, the Hispanic Society, which is, forever entwined with that guy, Jimmy Rodriguez, and everything that happened up in the Concha Frito. They were throwing parties every weekend. I don't know if you noticed. I don't even know. So they were throwing parties at this place, and if you don't remember the procedure, Internal Affairs is supposed to do background checks and approve the parties. Okay. But I guess they must have missed that Jimmy Rodriguez was a mob associate, or that he's been arrested numerous times. I guess that went out the window. Why bother? In fact, Mike, they sponsored a party over there, by the way, with a place that had an illegal shed. That place could have burnt to the ground and killed everyone in it. Yeah. No one had a problem with it because it's friends of Eric Adams.
Guys, I'm just a human being now. So I look at, I got to tell you guys, I'm 100% honest and open. I believe that cops and criminals have so much in common that it's actually silly at times, to be honest with you. It's because, some of the nicest people to me were wise guys, okay? And some of the meanest people to me were wise guys. So I don't know where to tell you. My moral compass is I do the right thing for people. You know, whoever they are, however they treat me, I don't want to be bought by a Rodriguez guy. But if Rodriguez is hosting a party, I'm not against him. I don't know him. You know, for me, I understand that there may be it may look bad. My captain walks into a Bumanti's. You guys know what Bumanti's restaurant is in Brooklyn, on Driggs, one of those streets over there, right off the BQE on an angle. Bumanti's is featured in the Wise Guy show that was on Sopranos. That's the restaurant, Sopranos. Bumanti's, right? I'm in Bumanti's. It's a known associate place. I'm having dinner. Actually, I walk in and I'm not sitting down. I'm ordering dinner out, and Bumanti's did the right thing. Yeah, so we liked a free meal, and it was a good meal. It was Bumanti's. They do it nice, and I'm standing in Bumanti's, and in walks the captain of the precinct. Okay, now if you don't know the history, the captain tells me on day one, "I'll lock you up myself if you do anything." Because that's how I arrive at a precinct. "I'll lock you up myself," he says to me. I go, "Okay, well, welcome to the 9-4, right?" So he tells me, "I'll lock you up myself if you do anything wrong." Of course, whatever. And now he walks in. This is about 6 months before I get arrested. He walks into Bumanti's. He sees me. I see him. He's got his gumata with him, right? He looks at me, and he goes, "What are you doing in here?" I go, "Getting some food. What are you doing in here?" He goes, "I'm going to sit down and eat." I go, "Well, have a nice day." He goes, "You didn't see me." I says, "Who? What?" Now, it's a known location. It's a known mob location. That's why we're not allowed to eat there. I'm in there getting my food. He's going to sit down. So you tell me. I mean, we're not allowed to eat there, but the bosses can. I mean, come on, bro.
That's the problem. That place was known for that. And, of course, the cronies underneath them, they're the fraternal organizations having a party. You're supposed to do your homework on the places, and you can't have a party there every single week. It doesn't look good. It looks like there's a conflict. But we then we learned, right, Mike, and then you heard the story of the entire nightclub extortion racket, right?
That was good. Yeah.
So they're committing, like, so it emulates because the brothers run this place, the Caban brothers, right. And the two of them are twins, right? James and Eddie. Eddie's a police commissioner. James doubles and acts like he is a police commissioner. Then he runs around in the 34th precinct,
right? And
they're shaking down places.
Yes.
They shook down a place in Coney Island where I used to work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I don't, where is, it's like, oh, well, it's like people got desensitized, Mike. They expect, oh, well, what else could be going wrong?
Right.
So, and it stems from that place because they were hanging out in this place, which is the base of the operation. And from that one place in the Bronx, this thing spread all over, all over Harlem. They're running around in 3-4 precinct, 3-3 precinct, extorting nightclubs. And no one's even batting an eye on that. It's like, oh, well, whatever, it happened. And that's my problem. Like, what is your take on that? They were shaking down nightclubs with the police commissioner's brother.
Yeah, because it's just so typical, bro. It's just so typical. I mean, what does they say? Absolute power will absolutely corrupt. I mean, this guy's wielding the biggest shield in the city. He's the commissioner. I mean, you'd think you'd be above reproach at some point, at least. So what does he do? He hands it off to corruption to his brother, right? I mean, that's really what you're seeing, right? I can't be corrupt anymore. I'm the commissioner, but you can do it under my tutelage. I mean, that's what that was, right? I mean, that's what it sounds like,
It stinks to high heaven what happened there, and the fact that Mike, on top of it,
I find it humorous. The reason I find it humorous is because everybody finds a racket at some point. You see, no one goes straight forward. They all look for a racket, and then they start pointing fingers at everybody else. Those are the guys they probably drop a dime on you in a second to get the heat off of them. This is what happens. That's the diversion tactic. Oh, look at Sal Greco. He's hanging out with Roger Stone. I'm robbing drug dealers. I mean, or I'm shaking down local establishments for payouts. I mean, this is what happens.
That's something that's been way too common on that job. It just, but on top of it though, Mike, the police commissioner has the final say on whether you keep your job or you get terminated. Yet,
Told me I was.
yeah, he's best friends with a guy who's like a known criminal, and he's got a restaurant with him. You know, him and his brother, and they shake.
So the mayor.
And then you got the mayor who's completely. I mean, there's a whole thing, and the same guy, John Panisi. Shout out to him at Sit Down News. Who's a former mob, a guy who's now he turned into an informant for the government.
Yeah.
John was the guy that said that Jimmy Rodriguez was a mob associate, and very recently, and he proved it. He has a whole story. Nothing's being refuted, you know. And then he's got a new one. He covered Eric Ulrich and Eric Adams. I don't know Eric Ulrich. Remember, he was a city councilman.
I know the
Here he is. Look at Eric with this guy, Snako. Look at this guy. But Eric Ulrich was a city councilman, had a gambling problem. You know, the Bonanno family, all kinds of stuff going on there. So he recently recanted all the stuff that came out during his case. And they have what that place, Aldo's over there in Howard Beach. And Eric Adams,
Aldo's,
how he got involved with this guy.
Aldo's was our spot.
But that's what happened with Eric Adams.
Oh, yeah.
And Eric Adams gave him the position of what? Later on, he was an advisor. Then he became the buildings commissioner. And the buildings commissioner was the one that approved that permit for Jimmy Rodriguez and his place there, Concha Frito, when the place, he should have never had the permit. He had a wooden shed. That thing was a fire trap. It had so many violations.
Yeah.
But Ulrich was the head of the building department when that happened. So it's, you know, and everything's like all connected.
Yeah.
Yet it's like we're just, it's Eric Adams. Let's give him a position with Trump. Like, that's a great idea. Yeah. Joel Ramirez says the department promotes corruption on the lowest level because it's easier for them to get away with their corruption when all eyes are only focused on the rank and file, that's what they love doing.
Yeah.
They love it. They love going after the little guy, and then these big guys, like I'm discussing here.
Yeah.
It's all factual too. You look this up. It's happening right in front of your eyes.
Yeah, I made a boo-boo on one of my podcasts. I have a podcast. You know that. It's called I've changed it 3 times because I got rid of the last guy that was working with me. He's a nice guy, but I didn't like his financial stuff. I don't play games with other people's money because I like to be clean financially, unless it's a drug dealer. That's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, organized minds instead of organized crime. It's like organized minds is my podcast now. We're slow releasing it. I'm doing it with the guy Mike, a Nassau County cop. It's sort of like good cop, bad cop, but we don't use the name anymore. We got rid of that. But we do a show and we talk about a lot of these issues, but we deal with a lot of guys that have suffered. Like a lot of guys that have had an experience that's. And they've overcome stuff. So that's where I focus on today. You're going to find corruption in every place where there can. I mean, how many Congress papers and senators are worth tens of millions of dollars? They make 160, 180,000 a year. How you worth tens of millions of dollars? It doesn't. I mean, the average cop today, if he's a hardworking guy, is going to make almost 200, right? And do they have tens of millions in a bank anywhere? I don't get it, bro. It's just so deep, corruption. Where do you start? Yeah,
I see that. You see all of that? And I have an interesting comment here from Matt O'Brien. It says Sergeant Joe Trimbali, who brought the attention of this criminal, I guess he's talking about you, was treated like crap by the department.
Yeah, true.
That is true. He was. I know he was. They basically treated him like, "Hey, you're a killer," and they banished this guy. His whole career.
Yeah.
But he was doing his job.
So that's the point. This criminal, me, you can say me, Mike. You don't have to this criminal, whatever. They want to use my name like I'm a serial killer. Joe Trimboli. He's dead. He passed a couple years back. He was 69 years old when he died. Anyway, I actually wanted to have a discussion with him, and we were never able to make it happen. He suffered a lot because of my case, and I feel bad for that. What do you mean he suffered? He he had the proof all along, and they kept telling him to go away. All right. Joe Trimboli used to come hang out in bars with me. Not hang out with me, but where I was. He'd follow me at home. He'd follow me to the grocery store. He followed me to Florida one day in the car. Okay. I was going to Florida. He followed me. I think I lost him in North Carolina because I got a flat. You know, Joe Trimboli, he did his job. Okay. So I don't hate him for that. He was annoying as hell. I'll tell you the truth. And eventually they gave him a detective shield or something like that, I believe. After, I don't know if it was when he retired or what, I can't remember the whole thing. My cousin had to give him an award in Florida, believe it or not. They awarded him something in the 1013 club down. You guys got a 1013 club down there and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin ran the one of the ones over in over by Clearwater, over in that area, Pinellas County or something.
That's Will County, yeah.
Yeah, and my cousin had the hand Trimboli award, and Trimboli followed my cousin at one point too, because my cousin and I were hanging out. So the stories are so intricate, but this is life. Did I make Trimboli was? Here's the story with Trimboli. As a human being, he wasn't likable. That's the problem. He wasn't very likable, but he was one of those dogged cops who was trying to do the job, and I have to give him credit. I wish I had the chance to speak to him and tell him I respect his efforts, because I do. I actually do now. Back then, he's annoying. I want to get rid of him. I want to kill him. But now, as an older, more mature human being, I respect what he tried to do. The job didn't want another scandal. I was the benefactor of that. I was too young to understand the reprieve I was getting. And to be rigorously honest, for my situation, when I became a good cop, no one wanted to work with me anymore. They thought this guy, something's wrong with him. Get away from him. Now there's no excuse to revert back to doing the things I did revert back to. But I can't win for losing here. Here I'm trying to be I was doing what's called straight A's, right? I was doing straight A's. I was being honest. I was coming and going to work, doing my job, getting a little bit of overtime, making a living. And guys were like, something's wrong with this guy. He's toxic. You stay away from him. He brings trouble. I'm like, all right, well, if I'm going to bring trouble, I just threw my hands in the air. The fire department, I died on the fire department list. I was on a list for 9 years. And I died on the list. I'm like, Jesus, I can't get out of here now. I was trying. They came to me. You can't believe the story. They came to me and said to me, would you run for delegate? This is in April. Because I was a boss fighter. Guys love that. Would you run for delegate? I think we think you can be our delegate. We want you to be our delegate. This is after being there for 2 years now. You stood through all this torture of no one wanting to work with you. You're a gangster cop, the whole bit. He said, and now we like you. Okay, so they want you to run for delegate. I said to the kid, I was in a 124 room. It was a young kid. I looked at him. I said, kid, I don't know if I'll be on this job in another month. Sure enough, I got locked up 4 weeks later.
Funny, says the job could be, it's entertaining at times. Michael M. said the job didn't want another Buddy Boy scandal. Joe was shut down as a result. I'm going to say this. First was a paisan of mine. So, of course, I always hold the paisans in a different regard. Joe Trimboli, there was a thing behind the scenes in regards to not only your case, although we know about your whole part, there was something even bigger on top. And, of course, I can't verify everything because, unfortunately, Joe's not alive anymore.
Right.
But the people that knew him and around him said that Joe was working on something that it's more to yours. It was going up. And that's the real reason they sidelined him, because he was, like you said, a hard-nosed cop, excellent at his job. People may not like his personality because he wants to do his job, but the job ruined him for doing his job. And that's the moral of the story, is what they do it today.
You heard me say it. I admit it. He was good at what he did. He was on me. All they had to do was give him the power to intervene. So I forget this all the time. Joe Trimboli came to me. Yeah, he came to me when I was investigated on some beating that took place, and I was a witness to the beating. Of course, it didn't happen, right? So back then there's no cameras. It didn't happen. I said the guy's lying. And while I was in the meeting with him and the guy named Sandler, Sandler, a Jewish guy, he had the beanie on and everything, in the interrogation. GO15 with the GO15s, right? Is that what they call it? I don't know if they do.
Yeah. They call it GO15s.
I got GO15 and and my lawyer says to me, I said to my lawyer, what's this? I'm not here for this. I'm here for that. He goes, well, while we got you here, they knew I had the memo book for that date that they were now going to question me on. It was something else. And I said to him, I said, I had Martin Luther King foot post. This is when they will put me on foot post to try to jam me up, because that's what they do. They put you on a foot post, they follow you. So I'm on this foot post, Martin Luther King on between Blake and Dumont by Van Sicklin. And I see this guy sitting there in a car. I waved to him. I don't know who he is because he's got all these different looks. The guy, one day he looked like a Cousine. Next day he looked like he had long hair down to his fucking ankles. I don't know. This guy kept. I waved to him. I think it's RIP. I think it's like robbery, the RIP unit or something. So I waved to him. How you doing, guys? And I go and I do my thing and I call for a sergeant right away because I get to the post. My routine. I did my routine. I got to the post. I was 16, 10, 15. 10, 15 the car plate. I ran a plate because when you run the plate, the sergeant knows where you are, right?
Yeah.
Owner of such and such and running this plate. So the sergeant goes, have that foot post stand by. It's 4:15. I got my scratch. I'm done. I'm done for the day. So now I get in my car. I got this guy, this big, doofy motherfucker named Walter Yerkew. I don't even know the guy. He's 6'6", 275 pounds. I come on, kid, we're going. He goes, where? I go, come on, get in the car. Shut up. Let's go. He don't know me. Right? I throw him in the car. We go down to is it Riverdale? In Hinsdale. Riverdale and Hinsdale. You can't get any more ghetto than Riverdale and Hinsdale. Right? But on the corner is the bodega. I go in the bodega. I go have 4 hamburgers, put some hot sauce on it, and some nips. We got 8. Back then it was an 8-pack of nips, right? Get back in the car. Guy says, oh, Officer Mike. He hadn't seen me since. So I went to Coney Island. I came back from the Coney Island detail. Officer Mike. Young black kid comes over to me. I dealt with him for some things, and his sister was raped. I mean, this is the shit, His sister was raped, and Officer Mike gave me a big hug. Hey, good to see you. Yeah, young kid, 8 years old, 9 years old. It was so touching for me for that. You know what I mean? Think about it. Like, here I am, this piece of shit, robbing people and stealing drugs, whatever I was doing. At the time, I wasn't, by the way, but because I was scared. I was in Coney Island. Why do you think they sent me to Coney Island, right? I told you the story. I was in Coney Island, right? When I come back, I see this kid, and it just touched my heart. This kid remembered me. He came over and said hello to me, and I'm getting in the car with Walter, and we're driving back to the foot post. We get back to the foot post. I mean, it's the ghetto. What do? You eat your burger, you throw everything out the fucking window, right? What does Tromboli do? I don't know this. We leave. I go on a personal, and then I take my meal from like 7 to 8, and I bang out the rest of the day. I go home, right? Tromboli goes, picks up the beer cans, and puts them in a bag.
He's got you. Yeah, he got you. He's got you.
He thinks he's got me, but you can't get prints off a wet beer can. Maybe you can get touch. Maybe you get some touch DNA, but not back then, right?
No, not back then. No.
Yeah. So he thinks he's got me now, though, because he's got the beer cans. He's going to say, I saw him throw them out the window. So while I'm in there, they start questioning me about this incident. I go, I know what you're talking about. I go, this is, my lawyer goes, what do you normally do on a foot post? I go, this, and this. He goes, that's exactly what Tromboli said you did. I don't know. I don't even know who this guy is. I don't know who he is. This sergeant. He goes, that's what he said you did. I go, and? I said, I'm not going to admit to that. He goes, I know. He says, they just want you to admit to being in your car. Okay? So you get a rip for being in your car. I figure a day or two, whatever. Turns out it was 10, by the way. So, yeah. So I leave the meeting with the internals guy, whatever. It was called FIAU at the time. I leave. I go back to the precinct, and I see this guy again. I hadn't seen this guy but one time. 6'6" motherfucker with red hair, Walter, right? I go, hey, Yerkew. I don't even know his first name. Yerkew. He goes, what? I go, I just got called into FIAU about this thing. He goes, yeah, I just got the notification. Like, he's so happy. I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, they want to see me too. I go, when? He goes, Monday. This is Friday. Now, can you imagine getting a 3-day leeway to go
Yeah.
see FIAU? I
Yeah.
mean, this is insane. I go, listen, no matter what you say, don't say that we were drinking. Now, he's on probation. He could be instantly fired when he walks in that, when he goes to that meeting.
Yeah.
He goes in there, he holds his mud. He goes, just tell us Dad was drinking. Triboli's jumping up and down, threatening him, I'll take your job from you. He goes, we wasn't drinking. I swear we weren't drinking. So, of course, I owe Walter a debt of gratitude for the rest of my life. In fact, I call him after this meeting. So he held his mud. I still got jammed up, but I could have fired me, right, for drinking on duty back then. I mean, we all did it back then, so it didn't matter. But I would have been to the farm earlier.
Well, funny part is that Joe actually had the beer cans. He was watching you with a different look. Shout out, I tell you, Joe, he's a legend that unfortunately the job itself tried to take out. That just shows you that a job, it's the institution protects itself. That's the problem. That's always been the problem. So John McCarry asked here, I had it up before. Mike, during your time in the NYPD, how many cops in the NYPD would you consider corrupt or were aware of the corruption and said nothing?
Okay, 50%. 50% were aware.
Wow.
50% were aware, and probably 20% were corrupt. So 50% are corrupt, right? If you're aware, you do nothing. I can't. What else do you want me to tell you? There were guys that knew that we were robbing everybody. Yes. Look, the whole squad was robbing people. Maybe 3 guys on the squad weren't involved. The squad was like 26 people.
Wow. That's a lot. Half of them would do it. That's
That was my squad. The other squad. How about this? I rob a guy. He says, stop. I go, what do you mean stop? He goes, I just got robbed on the last shift. I'm like, oh, fuck. Who's doing it? Who's doing this? I mean, I thought I was the only one. I found out I wasn't.
Oh, my God. That's what I'm saying. A lot of fish were let go. A lot of fish didn't get caught. A lot of fish are connected to people. That's what I'm alluding to is you can't use it if you're going to use you as the poster child, right? But you're seeing that a lot of other things are happening and they don't treat everything the same way. Like Joe Trimboli, for example, who did an excellent job chasing down many leads. They let him say, okay, he could get you and a couple other guys, and then when he reaches a little further up, he gets decapitated his career, right? That just shows you that the institution is protecting itself. That's my issue. They protect themselves with a lot of things, and it's not fair. And Officer Joe and Jane, the rank and file, are getting, like, I guess the word would be stampeded on by the people up top who are protecting this institution or, trying to cover for themselves and their cronies. Right. That's what his job has always been. Right. But at a certain point, when you say is enough, that's what I said. I mean, Eric Dim said, I have often said in this administration that all the active chiefs are compromised in order for these scandals to carry out. What are your thoughts, Mike?
Absolutely. Well, listen, I told you how it happened, right? Adams came on in 86, 87, 88, that time frame. Now, everybody that Adams touched, they were all involved with the whole, whatever the soup was back then. And I know stories that I don't want to get into them because I don't know factual. I just know what I've heard. All right, I told you, there's a big operation going on, and you alluded to it slightly there in the 7-7, 7-9, 7-3, 7-1. There was a large group of guys, local guys, so they were guys from the neighborhood that were running a lot of the rackets, all hooked into the PD, and they will go, and they were getting promoted up and up and up. Now, I'm not here to say individuals specifically, but I know that it was happening. We had a guy try to get us, okay? Young black kid, a cop in the hood, and he was arrested for guns, okay? He was arrested for gun smuggling from North Carolina, all right? And they put him back to work. Now, here's a guy who's selling guns to the street. Mackey, his last name was Mackey. He was selling guns to the street. We were taking him off the street, right? I might have took a few extra, but whatever. But the point is, we took him off the street, and they let him come back to work to get us because we were the right height. They didn't want the scandal to be about the guys that they were lowering some standards to let on. I'm being honest. Guys that had records. Don't get me wrong. I was worse than all of them, right? Because I turned into it, right? But I turned into the environment. I took it on and became. I loved it. Like it was like this is a new me. I mean, that's crazy. That's how crazy you get. But these guys were from the neighborhood, and they were running rackets deep. I mean, they ran the nightclubs. They all had, something going on outside of work. And so you're talking in an era where Adams grew up where all these guys were his friends. So all his friends that eventually get promoted upward, it's, and some were, they did a lot of quotas. I hate to talk about it, but guys get mad. They did a lot of pushing guys up through quota systems. And, the guy gets a 53 on a test. I got a 57. How come I'm not? He's my sergeant. You know what I mean? So this is what happened. And they all got promoted upward. And then by the time Adams leaves the job, all his friends are in position. He comes back as mayor. He starts plucking them in to these nice spots. I get the call at 3 a.m. from a woman. Says, my husband's a drug dealer and he's a chief. Okay? I get that call because she's mad at him. It happens.
Yeah. I'm going to say, let me do some of these. Orlando Diaz, he gave us $9 to the Sal Greco show. That's plenty of espressos. Says, good show, Sal. Thank you, Orlando. Big Yahoo, $1.99 to the podcast. That's exactly the amount of a cafecito down here, by the way, which is espresso. I'll have one on you later. Anthony DiMaggio, who's been on the show, $19.99 to the show. Paisan, cannoli, a cappuccino per voi. I heard Mike went to my barber up on Midland Avenue not too long ago. Shout out to the Yonkers finest barbershop and all the cops who go there. So shout out to the barbershop. Frankie Pagliucci, as you know, I covered his whole story. This guy's being railroaded for a bogus, false positive drug test, which is completely illegal. It's been deemed illegal by Boston Police Department, but they're fighting this in the trial room, as you know. You're well aware of the trial room. So he had his trial yesterday, 2 parts of it. So $9.99 to the show. Only God can judge you. The rest is just noise. I'm saying, if I judge another person, that's saying I'm looking in the mirror. I'm the most perfect person. I'm the most one of the most imperfect people we're going to find. No one's perfect. So in the end, me or anyone else judging others, you really got to look. You got to judge yourself first.
I had one of the guys, Twitter exploded yesterday with a bunch of back and forth nonsense.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah.
And what it is. It gets under my skin a little bit, but but when it gets under my skin, I actually appreciate it because it opens a dialogue. Believe it or not, you can hate, but if you listen long enough, or you engage long enough, you might learn something. I mean, really, I think 1 or 2 of the guys here that came on hating, they sort of, they don't have to be my friend. They don't have to invite me for coffee or buy me a cappuccino, although I wouldn't mind one. But, for me, just listen, don't like what I did. Don't like who that person was, but you give a guy a chance. That's all. Just give people chances. You don't have to let him in your home.
All right, listen, the Finance Unfiltered had a Corey Pegues on, and people had their strong opinions about him, but they definitely listened to him and they watched him. And he has his own channel. If people want, they could go watch Corey. If not, they could sit there and stew about his past.
They can watch me on my channel.
Yeah, they can watch you. I'm just saying, it's a forum for discussion. People hear things, people hear ideas. Sometimes we report a lot about what's going on, especially with the NYPD in New York City in general and other things. But that's what this is about. I was one, I had Patrick Gordon on last week, and I said, it's good to have discussions where, opposition meets opportunity, coined by Eric Dim. And that's an important thing. We can't just sit here and mute our mouths and point fingers. Sometimes let's find something out about what this person, the other side, or some coined you a criminal, Let's hear what they have to say, the whys or what ifs, what led to this. Kind of like breaking down a case.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Yep.
You know, listen. I was in prison with a lot of bad people, right? And some guy came up to me and told me how to do something. And in prison, that's an affront, right? When someone tells you how to do something, that's really, you're stepping over a boundary. And here I am working with tools. He's from Nigeria, right? So I'm looking at this guy. You're from Nigeria. You're telling me how to work with tools? I've been working with tools since I'm 7 years old. Basically, you're being disrespectful. And he knew he was crossing the line. But you know what? I gave him that space for like one. I was ready to go off. I was ready to go off. And he goes, just let me show you something. Please don't take it the wrong way. So I let him show me something. And it had something to do with what we were doing with the screw gun, which I've been working with screw guns since they were developed. and like, you're going to have screw guns in Nigeria. That's what I think. What the hell do I know? And he goes, if you just do this, it'll be a little bit easier for you. And I looked at him and I go, let me try it. See what good. Let me try it. Well, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try it, right? Sure enough, the son of a gun taught me a little something different because I forced myself to give him the chance. And so, yeah. So before anything, this weekend, September 6th, is a big football game up in Albany area at the Christian Brothers Academy. There you go. And it's to benefit the 9/11 Tunnels to Towers organization. And it's really, really turned into a massive production now. We started out as a lark of Frankie Parker, who's big in the PD stuff and retired. He's the smallest guy in the department who shot the most people. And he's retired, and he put this thing together, and I'm proud to say that he did an amazing job. I had very little to do with it. I knew some of the business people on the ground up there who are stepping up to help out a little bit. And that's really all my connection is to it. And of course, the cause is a good cause, and they expect 30 to 50,000 people to show up for these 3 games upstate, and it's going to be I think the NYPD color guard is going to be there. I think the FDNY color guard backed out. They were asked they said they were coming, and then something about they didn't want to pay these guys to come up there or something. So I don't really know all the details, but I mean, 340 something men died, guys, and never mind another probably 500 or 1,000 since then from the lungs or all other cancers. And the FDNY said that they weren't going to be, because the commissioner, they were going, but the commissioner stopped them. I don't know. So the commissioner of FDNY, send your guys upstate to this big. It's all the Christian Brothers, all the Catholic schools. They're big in football. I don't know much about them personally. I'm not advocating specifically for the schools, but for the cause. It's the 9/11 cause, and how could you not? Listen, when you're in prison, right, and you watch your country under attack, there's no more helpless feeling in your life. If I didn't suffer from what I did to myself, that made me suffer 3 times more. Just watching those buildings come down and having a guy turn around to me and go, "Who cares?" And as you know, family members. I mean, I didn't have any immediate. I had a couple of cousins passed. In fact, the Vigiano crew, who I'm not related to, but my family knows the Vigiano family. So tell your friend there who gave me a little Vigiani slip in the Mickey there. I know the Vigiano, not me personally. My family, my brothers were there. My brothers, my whole family's cops and firemen. So they were all there, and they know the Vigianos. In fact, my brother worked with one of them. So, yeah.
Yeah. That anyone who would turn around and say that, that shows their character and integrity with it. There's a few more things I want to get to before I have you. We start talking about politics at the end here. Special Hagen said Adams became a cop at the height of the crack epidemic. The choice of staying legit or getting in the game was one most in certain neighborhoods had. Adams and his crew decided to do both. That's the Crumbs crew. There's Tim Pearson. Sure, you hear that name. Tim Pearson, Banks. You know Timmy?
I know of him. Yeah, I think I'm going to go on the limb and say I'm not sure.
Yeah, because Timmy's part of that crew too. I actually, I'm going to see if he actually wants to come on the show. I don't know how much you could talk about though, because he's in all these different cases. But Timmy falls in line with what you're like. This whole thing, Timmy and Eric.
Yeah, I had to plug in. Yeah,
I see. Now, so one other comment. Haha says, to 90% of the NYPD cops are corrupted directly and indirectly. Those who are protected are those assigned to selective protected units or division. I have to say there's a lot. He's got a lot to say. I don't know what the percentage would be, but there's a lot going on there, and that's what I'm trying to expose. The poor sucker that's like me doing the right thing that was on a street corner in the 71st precinct starting out, and you see all these different people getting things, and you just work your way through it. Man, I worked to my position. I didn't ask for any favors. Nobody was favoring me for anything. And then they do what they do to you. Meanwhile, there they are, hanging out in the Bronx and doing God knows what with other people on the side.
Listen. You're never going to get justice. You have to just make it. You got to, and I don't mean you personally, but you just have to learn to understand that life's not fair, right?
Yeah.
And have to accept it and do the best we can for yourself or others that you care about. That's why I'm big on looking out for other people that look out for me. I mean, I'll be the first one to sacrifice myself for somebody else, which, I mean, if you didn't get that from my whole fucking personality, you'd be missing the boat here. I mean, I'm the one they come for. Like, you need money? I don't have a job, but you need money? You're coming to me? You're like, why are you calling me? Am I that soft? Get somebody who actually has money. And for Christ's sakes, I don't have a pension. Give me a break. I broke my ass to get the little bit I have.
And one other was have Lampwick. He gave $19.99 to the show. I'll definitely be having quite a few. I'm going to have a heart palpitation with all the espressos these guys are getting me. He says, Sal, did you ever play golf at Tam O Shanatary in Brooksville? I got to be honest, Lampwick, I've never played golf. I had a golf club in my hand once. I was very young. It was out in Staten Island, in my friend's backyard. Back then, there was nothing. It wasn't Staten Island. This area wasn't as developed as it is today. We took golf balls. He was a golfer. I took a swing. First of all, I hit it. He had a right-handed club. I'm a left-handed hitter. I hit it, and it went like, I don't know, into a yard or something. Not even a yard. It was a completely empty field, and that's it. That's the extent of me playing golf. I'm not a golfer. I don't really enjoy. I watch it. I'm like, I don't know how people could deal with this. They say it's relaxing. So is watching Formula One or a baseball game. That's how I see it. Marlon says, as I said when I was being walked out, as they suspended me for not taking the vax. If there is no justice for us, there won't be for you either. And in which case, America will no longer exist. Marlon makes a great point. So, I think we cover a lot of bases, Mike. So the last part I want to cover here is going to have on the producer, Jack, my producer, who wanted to talk a little bit about politics because you were very opinionated with that. So, Jack, I don't know. You have plenty to ask about, or maybe you have anything you could pull up. You take it away.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to pose a dilemma for all of our listeners before we kind of segue. The upper echelon of the NYPD over the past couple of decades has been extremely corrupt in terms of stealing overtime, misusing government funds to the point where they've jeopardized public safety, right? Because when you're paying people $350,000 a year, $400,000 a year, you can no longer put as many cops in the subway. So I'm going to challenge everyone listening out there to ask themselves, is that as bad as what Mike did, or is what Mike did worse? Because I think with the state of New York City right now, you need to take a hard look in the mirror and really ask yourself that question, because there's going to be no returning given the budgetary issues that the city has encountered over the past couple of years. It's going to be a very difficult issue to fix. And for what my money's worth, that is jeopardizing public safety a whole lot worse than anything Mike did. Plus, a lot of people in the comments are saying this too. Even though Mike might have been dealing drugs and engaging in some activity that was bad, deviant, to put it lightly, he still cared about people. He still cared about his fellow cops. And even when he got off the job, there were many individuals who spoke positively about him. They're never going to put that in any news article, documentary, anything like that. But do kind of consider all the layers of the situation here before you make a final evaluation.
Well, thank you for saying what you just said. But I'm ashamed at what I did. Let's be clear. What I did was shameful, and I deserve public opprobrium, disgrace. But like we said, everybody deserves a chance to come back and make the best life for themselves. And and I think I have not made the best life for myself, but I'm attempting to on a daily basis. I'm 64 years old today. I'm a grandfather. I have 4 grandkids. I have 2 sons that, one's a little banged up right now. Hopefully he's getting his stuff together. They've had a difficult life. They had a dad that left their home, in disgrace. One kid's named Michael Dowd. I mean, imagine being Michael Dowd. Oh, the first thing they think about this area is that your father? And he goes, yeah, it's a tough paper route for some guys to have that, and but my son, he's doing okay, amen for that. And funny story, you mentioned golf. I'll just segue real quick to the golf. So I was known to be a pretty good golfer. Okay, so my son is in Staten Island doing a job with somebody. He's an insurance broker guy. He goes in there and he assesses damages. You know how the Italians always burn a house down. Anyway, they call it Jewish lightning, but it's Italian. Anyway, every Italian every Italian friend of mine has had a house burned. I don't know how. Usually while they're in Florida or in the Bahamas. Anyway, so this one guy calls up. He's got to report some damage, whatever. My son shows up, and he sees my son's name on his business card, Michael Dowd. He goes, "Is Michael Dowd your father?" He goes, "Well, yeah, Michael Dowd's my father." He goes, "The cop." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Your father." Listen, he says, "Your father." He goes, "I never saw anybody," and this is a little promo for me. "I never saw anybody walk up to a ball and whack it down the middle of the fairway as far and as easy as your father did." I said, "Damn it, man! Who said that? Get that guy's name."
No, that's a great story. I think that's hysterical. And everyone who meets your son is definitely going to be asking about you two's association, whether it's just by coincidence, he's your kid, he's your uncle that got named after you. I don't know. It's going to be weird. But anyway, in the spirit of focusing on what's going on now, let's focus on what happened a little bit earlier today when Curtis Sliwa went on Dan Manarino's podcast and said he is absolutely not dropping out of the race. Mike, we had an interesting conversation last night where you said if I lined up 3 million people on Park Avenue, 3rd Avenue, 5th Avenue, wherever it may be in New York City and asked them who they were voting for, not even half, I believe you said not even a third, if I'm not mistaken, would be voting for Zoran Mamdani in the upcoming mayoral election. Do you care to elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, I said that because people are confusing a few things here. You got this Adams in it. You have Cuomo in it. These guys they're screwing up a real New Yorker. He can win. He can easily win. There's nobody out there. You can't compete. First of all, I don't know Curtis personally. One of my first shifts in NYPD, Curtis was walking down 5th Avenue right after the New Year's Day parade, okay, and he was quite a figure. There was the basketball player Cartwright. There's this 7-foot tall black guy walking down the street, and right next to him was Curtis Sliwa. So that's how I saw Curtis in my first saw him in my life. And listen, we were no friends of the Guardian Angels back then. I don't know if it turned around. We didn't like him, this and this, but he was quite the impressive figure. So that being said, he's a true New Yorker at heart. Who is Mamdani?
I think he's a figure that they kind of put there right now.
To me, he's like a meme. They built him.
He's an absentee. He's an absentee assemblyman. That I could tell you. He got elected to the assembly, and he wasn't even there in the last couple of weeks. At least 6 weeks until the end of the legislative session. He didn't vote on any bills. He only put like one bill forth in the couple of years that he's there. So
he would have zero name recognition, and Sliwa would slide to victory if these people would get out of his way. Okay, but the press, the media, they're all like hyping because he won the Democratic primary. AOC won the Democratic primary too. No one even likes her, but she just keeps winning. I mean, you got it.
But Mike, they keep saying Cuomo's the best chance now. That's the new one. The first one was Eric. Now it's Cuomo, who has his own scandals. Cuomo lost in the Democratic primary to Mamdani with all those other people running.
Cuomo has
in a
no,
one-on-one, he
Cuomo has-
can't win. It's
Cuomo
going to
has-
get worse.
Cuomo has no Cuomo has no chance. He can't do it. He's blowing smoke. He's paying for people to say he's got a chance. Okay, he's got.
And yet over the past 24 hours or so, his chances have shot up. This graphic on the screen per Poly Market, he was sitting around 8% earlier in the week, and now he's all the way up to 16%. This is eerily similar to what happened in the Democratic primary where the tables were turned. It seems like everyone thinks that Cuomo, logically speaking, represents the best chance at beating Mamdani, so they've decided to coalesce behind him. The problem with that strategy is there's almost no chance that Sliwa drops out, and Eric Adams is kind of lingering a little bit too long as well. So they're putting all their eggs in Cuomo's basket, partially because now Cuomo is associating with Trump and all of these business big shots who are going to be donating money to his campaign, even though more people are going to vote against him than for him because of that association. They're trying to buy the seat of the mayor, but it's a very faulty strategy when you really think about it. And it reeks of desperation when you consider that Cuomo couldn't even beat Mamdani in a head-to-head matchup in the Democratic primary with $25 million and Michael Bloomberg behind him. Why should we trust that he would win now? No, you only get so many chances to run, and he doesn't deserve another one.
He's a governor that fell from grace. Okay, not only was he a governor that fell from grace, he did a lousy job as governor. I hate to say,
resigned in disgrace. Correction to that.
One point, Cuomo recently, the state had to settle one of his sexual harassment lawsuits.
When they really drilled down on it, Cuomo's a lousy candidate. I don't know why they're doing this. I think because Trump and Sliwa just don't get along. And I told Sliwa, I didn't tell him personally, in a tweet or something about 3-4 years ago, back up. You're creating he's putting himself in a pit. You know, you don't have to like Trump, but stop the hate on him, please, because he was ruining his own brand. I have to tell you the truth. Because if you're a law and order guy like Sliwa is, you got to maintain your brand. You don't have to, listen, like the guys on your show, you don't have to hate Dowd. Just don't pay attention to him. Leave him alone if you don't want to see the show. You know, stop hating on people. The haters, you know, it's just, and he hated Trump, and he's so boisterous and so obstreperous is the word, that he caused himself to be less likely when he actually is the most likable candidate in the race.
There's a couple of things I know. 69% of the New York City electorate will vote against whoever Trump endorses, meaning 69% of the electorate doesn't want a Trump endorsed New York City mayoral candidate.
Maybe Trump's doing Sliwa a favor, like endorse Cuomo. I don't see it.
Endorse Cuomo.
So we put the graphic up earlier from Roger Stone when he debunked the report by Politico, and he's very reputable. He speaks with Trump every day, knows him well.
Yeah.
But I'm the type of guy who believes that when there's smoke, there's fire. And by that logic, even if Trump did not offer Adams or Sliwa jobs in his administration, he still is supporting Cuomo above the other two guys. So if Trump is going to find ways to push him through, he's Trump's guy, and he's going to end up getting a lot of money, but it's probably not going to mean anything in the end, the same way it didn't mean anything last time.
He can't beat Mamdani. He can't beat him. It's already been proven. Because Sliwa's going to take the other half of the vote. So Sliwa's going to get a third of the vote minimum.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to end up, when it's all said and done, if the election was held today, he'd be getting about 25% of the vote. Everyone I've spoken to who's in the know when it comes to these types of polls says he's going to poll a lot higher than the sub 15% that he's getting right now. So just imagine what that looks like if Cuomo and Adams drop out.
Yeah. Well, that's why they should drop out.
The thing is the general election ballot will be finalized on an all day September 11th. So if no one drops out, so now Jim Walden's name shouldn't show up on the ballot because he dropped out, and rightfully so. We have had him on the show. He was never going to get more than 1 or 2%. He doesn't have the name recognition, although his platform was good. He had good policies. Right. Politics is a lot of it too. Name recognition, party backing. He doesn't have a party. He had no shot. You got to raise millions. Either you're rich like Bloomberg, or you raise that amount of money, which means you're going to owe a lot of favors. So that's not a guy you would want to vote for anyway. Now, if
anyone matching money, didn't Sleeper just get the matching money last week?
Yeah, he did. He has the most of the donations from inside of New York City.
Right.
But if you're gonna
wait, doesn't that tell you something, guys?
The support.
The city want him. They want him.
People in New York City, yeah. People in Florida and Long Island apparently want Eric Adams a lot more.
Yeah, Long Island wants Cuomo, and Florida wants Eric Adams, who he can't even tell you what he was doing here, other than probably setting up his next corruption ring. But yeah, because Florida's an easily corruptible state. I could tell you, there's so much stuff all over the place here. You want to talk about a Wild Wild West? They're talking about you, Mike, in your heyday. Look at Florida, because there's pockets of stuff you're going, whoa, your head's spinning. But Eric Adams, now they're in, the Florida, the Fugazi, Fort Lauderdale Young Republicans had an event for this guy. We call it the Clout Chasers event, because they were all clout chasing. Then the minute that I caught this, they took all the pictures down, acting like, and they were all crypto guys, people that are in and around Mar-a-Lago, like the grifter crowd. They're all now. Now I'm wondering what they're saying. Well, because he went on. There it is. Look at these pictures. They scrubbed this, acting like this never happened, but it did. These are your Florida Republicans with a complete charlatan. This guy's not even a Republican. He care less about anything other than show me your crumbs, give me my crumbs, and I'm happy.
Yep.
This is what they did here. So Florida is a wide open state at times. I know they're pro law enforcement here, but there's so much going on. I don't think you have enough cops to handle what really happening out here. Florida wants Eric Adams.
I should get back down here.
And for context, Mike, the guy all the way on the left was Eric Adams' top public funds contributor, Tony Delgado, who also runs Latino Wall Street in Las Olas in Fort Lauderdale. So yeah. So like he's shaking hands and hanging out with bigwigs, but the most puzzling dilemma is Andrew Cuomo and Donald Trump. I happen to believe that they were good friends before all of this, and them having all of these disagreements was just for show to try and appease their constituents within their own parties. The power that both have had, their status as business elites, and the mutually beneficial relationship that they enjoy with one another, where they get donors from these big wigs in real estate and other industries. There's too many similarities between Cuomo and Trump to say that they've hated each other for a long time. It's funny because back in April, I know everyone has a short. Yeah, go ahead.
Adams or Cuomo?
Cuomo. Well, both. Both of them are friends with Trump.
Right.
Cuomo tried to hide it. Adams didn't. That's the difference.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, but Adams switched hats when he needed to get the votes, though. You know that.
Oh yeah, of course. And Cuomo is kind of following the same playbook in the sense that he only reached out to Trump when he absolutely needed them. But my suspicion is that they've been making backroom deals for years, and they just didn't want to admit to having a friendship, because when Cuomo was a Democrat, he would have lost a lot of support by virtue of that relationship. And then people would have started to question the legitimacy of Trump being a Republican had they learned he was associating Cuomo. Remember, Cuomo years ago was a stark Democrat. Everyone regarded him as one. Now he's trying to reinvent himself as an independent, failing miserably. But the point here is that status is a lot more important than partisan affiliation. We're realizing that, right? Because Trump cares about Cuomo and Adams, and he hates Sliwa, who's the Republican. How does that make any sense?
I can't. You know what? That's why, guys, they got to bury the hatchet at some point. Everybody's got to bury the hatchet and just do what's best for the people. I mean, I hate to say this because, I mean, listen, if I had a choice, I'd have to take Cuomo, but I don't want to. I think Sliwa is the better man for the city. Listen, I guarantee you in the Bronx, Sliwa would win hands down. And Staten Island, I know for a fact he's going to win both. The Bronx loves Sliwa. He basically grew up in the Bronx, Sliwa. All right. And he walked those streets. He walked in those subways when no one else would. He put himself on the line, and his family and his health. He was shot by Gotti's buddies. I think John Jr. shot him himself.
No, it wasn't him. No, it wasn't him.
I forget who. One of John's friends shot him.
Ramone Bravo said, he's talking about Eric Adams. He said he's a grifter to the end.
Yeah.
It's
no question.
Well, Cuomo and Adams are both grifting. It's so it seems anyway, because neither really represents much of a chance of winning. You almost wonder, is Andrew Cuomo in some sort of debt to the point where he's cozying up to Trump? Does he like need something financially? The same for Eric Adams. I mean, he's stolen tons of money. He's giving them out in chip bag envelopes to reporters. I mean, you don't know where the money's coming from for this guy. For all we know, he could have hundreds of dollar bills stuffed in his mattress somewhere. But I think that both of them are in this financially, because remember, if they drop out of the race, they have to repay all of their public matching funds out of pocket, which amounts to millions of dollars, and they're not going to be winning it. So my only belief based off those two facts is that they need money and that they're in financial trouble in some way, shape, or form.
Listening to you, Jack, I just learned something. I didn't know they had to return the money if they dropped out.
Yes. You have to. Because remember, Mike, in New York City, you get public matching funds with the match contribution. So when I pointed out that Tony Delgado was Eric Adams' largest matching funds contribution, that's because he put him over the limit to get matching funds, and then he received like a 7-to-1 return ratio based off the money he got from Delgado. It was.
Wait, this is what doesn't make sense. The city's not even the money's not even coming from residents or voters.
Yes, so that's something that the Campaign Finance Board, and I'm going to pull this up in a second, but the Campaign Finance Board in New York City really should look at the possibility of allowing outside contributions, because if guys are reaching their matching funds required limit off of contributions from Nevada, where Adams was for a crypto conference. Yeah, it's not moral and it's not ethical. And there needs to be limitations on the state too, because for example, if Cuomo goes out to the Hamptons and gets $5 million handed to him, well, guess what? Most of those guys are not voting in New York City either. So what's it matter if they're only 3 hours away?
That's not right.
He's using that money to plant the stories that you're seeing today with this whole Eric Adams getting a job with Trump, which is not happening. Fox says Trump hating Sliwa is actually helping Sliwa. I'm going to say this. Trump in New York City did not, he got less of a vote in New York City in the last election than Curtis Sliwa did 4 years ago running for mayor. New York City, you need to run as a moderate. The best word to describe is a liberal Republican. Okay. Giuliani ran in the 90s. Bloomberg ran the same way when he was a Republican and he was mayor. You can't win as a hardline MAGA. I want to deport everyone. That's not going to work. You'll get crushed in New York City. You could be conservative.
Since half the people voting are illegal aliens.
They want them to vote. That was Eric Adams, by the way, that wanted him to vote in local elections. People forget about that. Stephen S. says Adams could be ambassador to Haiti or Turkey. Exile him. No, Stephen, he can't be an ambassador because he won't get past the hearing for it. He has to get approved by the Senate. He's never going to get past that. So that'll never, ever happen. Ever.
Haiti would be good, though. He'd like Haiti.
That's true.
He's got all his Haitian friends. He's got a bunch of Haitian. He's right from the neighborhood, right? Was it Crown Heights or right by Crown Heights. What's the neighborhood next door to it? Bed-Stuy?
He's from, I think he was born in Bed-Stuy, but then he lived in Jamaica, Queens, South Jamaica.
Correct.
Well, Adams was actually born in Alabama and moved here with his family when he was a little child.
But it's Brooklyn first. It was Brooklyn first, then
Brooklyn first, and then Southside Jamaica, where he worked in a mailroom and as a pimp and as a drug dealer, and that vocation continued with Jeffrey Maddrey years later when they were caught up in a shooting in Staten Island, and both remained on the police force and got promoted 8 or 9 times. So the seed was planted very early on with Eric Adams. It's funny because Mike, you're very good about trying to bury your past, but Eric Adams takes no shame in not trying to bury his. At every single press conference, we hear a bad story about when he was a kid. First, he's hopping over turnstiles. He's going to see shorties. He's smoking. He's smoking. He was talking about seeing someone smoking weed on the street the other day, and he's like, "Man, I looked at him and said, 'You getting high, boy? Can you save some for me?'" He normalizes these weird things which uncover his past, and it's like, dude, you're supposed to move forward, not backwards.
I told you, and I said it earlier in the show. They had a racket going on. I don't know the details to it, but I know they did. And I got the phone call from someone's Gumata, saying this chief is dealing drugs. It was worse than you, Dowd. Way worse and bigger.
I tell you here, Fox says people in Brownsville know Adams too. Never met a black person anything good to say about Adams. I'm telling you, I've heard a lot of stories of him, and his reputation, follows him around. And then Hunter says, I would love to see the Crumbs movie. Steve Grillo said he can be John T. McCarry. He has the same look and all. Well, the Crumbs movie would be about Eric Adams' administration.
So that's the weird dilemma too, guys, about Eric Adams. Wait,
hold on. Omar Sheriff in the comments said, I be at the barbershops. I drink Hennessy. Eric Adams. He did. He would say that, though. That's what I'm trying to say. It's so low information. He is only appealing to low information. That's his whole MO. He did what he had to do to get elected, right? People fell for it. And then the real Eric Adams showed up. And then it's like, he's low information, partying every night. He shows shorties.
They ran a bunch of social clubs, okay? See, guys don't notice. But in Brooklyn, there was no real bars. You understand? There were no bars in Brooklyn. In the white sections there was, but in Brownsville, East New York, Bed-Stuy, there were no bars. They all had private social clubs where they all would go. No, there was no law enforcement involved in it because all the cops ran them. Okay, and that's where everything took place in that area. All undergrounds, call them speakeasies, whatever you want to call them. But that's how that's how it was. That was a network, and that's how it all spun out because they all went to their own social clubs. They all had social clubs, and they ran rackets out of these social clubs for years. I knew it because I went into one by mistake.
Oh, gosh.
Jeez, what was that experience like?
What am I doing in here? Like, and then it was all neighborhood guys. I'm like, I might be in the wrong place right here. And who was running it? A transit cop. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that's the weirdest dilemma about Eric Adams, and you guys probably know this well. But for everyone who is not in the police force, we hear he was a cop. He cared so much about the community. He rose to the rank of captain. And we're like, wow, maybe this person's actually going to be a good politician.
Yeah. Okay.
When you ask anyone who was actually involved in a union, worked with him, was in the academy with him, and they're like, that's not someone you should ever go near in any circumstances. And it really speaks to how good he is at presenting himself as an honorable person. It's like business in the front, party in the back, literally, right? Like he seems like a good person at face value, but then you realize that he's involved with really shady people in illegal operations. And then you wonder how you can possibly get him out of City Hall.
Yeah. Well, I think Al Sharpton was a mentor of his, to be honest. Don't quote me, but I think he was. And reminds me of a story. So, and I love this guy. Just I paused the story with that, right? His name was Reverend Pope. That was his name, Reverend Pope. Reverend Pope ran back in the day. I don't know if you guys are familiar. That's just Big Al.
That's it. He was with Al Sharpton, by the way. That's a criminal association charge that I guess everyone forgot because Sharpton is a convicted criminal. I don't know if people know that.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah. He did federal time for tax evasion. Anyway, so Reverend Pope ran the cheese and the cheese. Do you guys remember the cheese and butter back in the middle 80s? They used to give out cheese, butter, and flour to people. And let me tell you something. There was millions and millions of dollars worth of cheese and flour and butter that they gave out. And maybe syrup or something. I don't remember, something else. And the churches were the depot for all the product. So the church was they were churches. The pastors were in charge of distributing this stuff, and it was a money-making racket. They didn't give the stuff out; they sold it. Of course, I got mine, but it was just you can't make these stories up. That is like a hotbed for. I mean, I hate to say this because no one's gonna. The same thing in Palestine, right? They're shipping food to the Palestinians, and the Hamas are taking the food and selling it, right? They did the same thing in the 80s in Brooklyn, okay? All right.
That's gross. I think this. I think we should wrap that up there.
Yes.
With everything. So, well, we'll do this. Mike, if I don't know if you have any last thoughts you want to tell the audience. I've seen a ton of comments here. You answered a lot of questions. You're a trooper with everything. So, I don't know if you have any last thoughts, any last comments you want to leave.
Just check out my podcast, Organized Minds. If you don't mind, guys, check in. You can be nasty. I don't care. You can also check out that Tunnels to Towers benefit game up in upstate in Albany. If you're in the area, or if you just want to take a nice ride with your family, it'll be a nice event. You'll support a great cause. And you check my social media out. Hit me up. I don't follow everybody back because you're not supposed to, they say. My son said, you can't follow everybody back. You're famous. I went, oh, okay. So I had to stop following people. I don't know why. But that's the game, they say, right? So anyway, be good and stay safe out there, and know that, hey, listen, if you have a crisis, a personal crisis, please don't be shy to reach out to me. I check my messages daily. I'll take a phone call. I'll come visit if you really need some help with something mental, psychological, or really, I don't mind doing that. So yeah.
All right, listen, I think you've been trying to pick up the pieces from your past ever since everything occurred. Look, we could recite everything over and over again. This isn't what I wanted you to come on, but you did answer some of the questions in there. Some of the people were a little outrageous, obviously, I'm not gonna, give them the attention they want, but I think it was pretty fair in here. I hope things go well for you in the future. Might have you back on in the future if something arises. But I think this was pretty good discussion. I think it's fair for everyone to see. You're telling people don't go down the road I did, and you trying to better not only the job but yourself, at least in the best way that you can. Some people you're not going to be able to win over. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, it's all good. Just live a nice life and be nice to people. Start with love. Start with love. How's that?
Yeah, start with love. That's right. But as I know, Stone's rules. That's Roger Stone, by the way. His book, Stone's rules, is hate is a stronger motivator than love. That's politics for you.
I'm not looking to be motivated. I'm looking for people to get better. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Well, listen, I hope you have a good rest of your day and also have a great weekend and enjoy the weather. You live in New York or Florida?
Right now I'm in New York. I'll be in Florida next week. Yeah.
There you go. Or maybe you never know. Maybe if you want to meet Roger Stone in person, you come down to Florida.
I'll be down there. I've been by Roger's, right by his house a couple of times. I didn't peek though.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. We'll see if you come down to Florida. Maybe Roger will say hello to you. But there it is, folks. Michael Dowd, the infamous Michael Dowd. You got a little bit of everything. You can't please everyone. That's not the way it works. I think he mentioned feeling, he's working on putting back together his life. He told you he repented. He said a lot of good things about Sergeant Trimboli, who's one of my paisans, and I'm thinking about it now. I wish I knew someone in and around him that could have the documents to prove what I knew about what we were talking about the case that he was working on, which was bigger than Michael Dowd. But unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago. But he was a man that was much maligned because of what he did, even though he was doing the right thing, which is the New York City Police Department in a bubble. So people can say what you want. You can say Mike's an embarrassment. Mike's a great guy. Mike, I think it's a discussion that was worth it for all of you to hear. Hunter says Sally didn't say anything about collecting a monthly check from the retirement system he was vested. I don't think you can. I don't know if he pulled all the money out, but obviously, once you convicted of a felony, you have nothing. Plus, he was fired. I mean, I would know. That's what I'm fighting for with my nonsense. Only thing was I'm just friends with the wrong guy. I didn't commit any crimes, but they acted like I was in the same bracket as someone committing a crime. Yet we don't know if any upper echelon were committing crimes with the criminals they hang out with. So, but that's all to be continued. So tomorrow, Friday at 8:05, check out the Finest and Filter. There's going to be a roundtable, and I'm sure some of this might come up in that. Also, whatever's about to come out in the next 24 hours with Eric, this thing with this pervert that works in the chief's office doing sexual acts on body cameras and whatever, this disgraceful stuff. This is the New York City Police Department. We're focused on the past with Michael Dowd, who's already, been in jail and did his time for his crimes, versus the guys committing crimes today that nobody's held accountable. I mean, no one. Who do you see? Paul Saraceno, the fall guy? Come on. The fall guy's a guy that doesn't even sign off on overtime sheets. He's just sitting there saying, yeah, the chief said this and the inspector do that. And that's what he's doing. That's the fall guy for everything. So that just shows you what's going on with that. And next week, at some point, I am waiting the transcripts from this trial from yesterday with Frankie Pagliucci there with Eric Sanders about the the drug screening stuff that's going on in the NYPD and what happened in the trial room. We're going to break this down. We're just waiting for the transcripts, and we will then have a show, me and Marlon, and we will, because he was in the trial room with him and he has a lot to say. He might touch up on it tomorrow, but definitely check that out. That's coming out in the future. Also, go back and check out Executive Perspective. Yesterday was on with Rob and Ron. They broke down the entire Juve fiasco, not only from, that just happened on Monday and over the weekend, but the years of it, because they were executives, they were cops, they worked that festival. I told you, guys, I worked it. I didn't work it one time. I worked in the 7-1, and the one time I was ever working on Juve, I was on the other side of the precinct doing, I was in Impact, and I was on Nostrand Avenue doing whatever, and the festival's on the other side. So that was the extent of my work around Juve. I never worked the parade, just to be honest. 14 years in NYPD, I never worked that parade once. So I don't know if it's a good thing, a bad thing, but so I'm not as knowledgeable as those two guys were, so they had a lot to say about it, so you could check that out on the replays, Executive Perspective. And also check out the 10-Foot Tavern. They're on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. or 19:05. Check that out. They had I saw the guests they had, but you could watch that on replay. And, of course, they'll be coming up this week as well. And I'll be back with you on Tuesday. And I'll be at Lone Depot Park this weekend. One of the final weekends is another one coming up. But the Marlins will be playing the Phillies. I didn't even touch up on the Mets. They won 2 out of 3 with the Tigers. Juan Soto's on fire. I told everyone when he was hitting 200, he's going to get hot. That's how he is. Now he's got 37 home runs, 90 RBI. The guy's looking to want to make him an MVP, but we'll see what happens with that. But the Marlins will be playing the Phillies, who are in first place. So those will be interesting games. I'll be there. Lone Depot Park is always fun. And for everyone else, I hope everyone, whether you liked it or didn't like it, I hope you enjoyed today. Okay, it was, I think this, again, was an informative thing, informative discussion. And I think people can learn from this. And just take it in. And whether you agree with Michael Dowd or you don't agree with him, there's always much to learn when you have dialogue. It's better to have dialogue than let's close our eyes and point fingers, like I said. That's never a good thing in life. So with that being said, I hope everyone has a good weekend. If not, I'll see you at the ballpark. And I'm going to sign off from South Florida, wishing you all a great weekend because, as you know, South Florida is a sunny place for shady people.
So this is a biblical moment. When Jesus was on the cross, he said, God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. All these Negroes who are asking me to step down, God, forgive them. Are you stupid?